For centuries, shadows have lingered over the pages of history, hiding secrets that defy explanation. Ancient civilizations vanished without a trace. Enigmatic artifacts appear where they should not exist, and stories whispered through time challenge everything we think we know. From the deserts of Palestine to the lost cities of the world, mysteries endure, puzzles that have baffled scholars, explorers, and dreamers alike. What really happened? What truths lie buried beneath centuries of silence? Tonight, we unravel the riddles that have haunted humanity. So sit back, relax, and let's dive into 3 hours of history's biggest mysteries explained. In the heart of China's Sichuan province, near the banks of the ancient Min River, lies a site that has captivated archaeologists and historians for decades: Sanxingdui. The landscape is unassuming, rolling fields and low hills that, to the untrained eye, might seem ordinary. But beneath this quiet terrain, extraordinary discoveries have reshaped our understanding of early Chinese civilization. Among the most haunting of these finds are the Sanxingdui bronze masks, colossal faces with exaggerated features, eyes staring wide and unblinking, mouths frozen in enigmatic expressions. They are not mere representations of humans. They feel almost otherworldly. The masks, some reaching over half a meter in height, were crafted with a level of skill that speaks to a society capable of remarkable artistry. Their eyes are wide and protruding, noses sharp and angular, ears elongated in ways that defy conventional proportion. Crafted between roughly 1200 and 1000 BC, these artifacts predate many classical Chinese states, yet display an artistic sophistication that is puzzling, even to modern scholars. Why did the artisans choose these shapes? What cultural or spiritual purpose did they serve? Archaeologists initially approached the masks as ceremonial objects, perhaps used in rituals or as representations of ancestral spirits. The wealth of other artifacts at Sanxingdui, jade figurines, gold scepters, and intricately carved ivory, supports the idea of a complex hierarchical society with a rich religious life. Yet, unlike other Bronze Age cultures, there is almost no textual record to accompany these objects. No written inscriptions survive to explain their significance. In the absence of explanation, the masks stand alone, imposing and silent. Intrigue deepens when considering their style. The exaggerated eyes and features are unlike anything found in contemporary Chinese cultures of the same era. Some suggest that these traits were symbolic, perhaps representing deities or supernatural beings, while others speculate that they could reflect a unique worldview, one that conceptualized humanity and divinity in ways we cannot fully comprehend today. Were these masks meant to terrify, to inspire awe, or to convey knowledge lost to time? The methods of creation themselves are equally mysterious. Bronze casting of this scale and precision was no small feat in the 2nd millennium BC. The fact that multiple large masks, each uniquely detailed, emerged from the site indicates an organized society with access to resources, technical knowledge, and skilled labor. And yet, the Sanxingdui civilization vanished, leaving no direct descendants to carry on its artistic or cultural traditions. How could such an advanced culture seemingly disappear almost overnight, leaving behind treasures without context or explanation? Speculative theories abound. Some have suggested that these masks represent encounters with the unknown, reflections of a cosmology entirely separate from the rest of Bronze Age China. Others have wondered if the exaggerated features are symbolic rather than literal, encoding meaning that has been lost over millennia. Could they have been a means of communicating with the divine, or even with entities we do not yet understand? The mask's expressions remain unreadable, defying simple interpretation. As the sun sets over the Min River, the masks sit in museum halls, their bronze surfaces catching the light, eyes staring outward as if guarding secrets that time has chosen not to reveal. Scholars continue to debate. New excavations continue to unearth fragments, and yet the fundamental questions remain. Who were the people of Sanxingdui? Why did they create these masks? And most perplexing of all, why does so little else survive to tell their story? Even today, standing before the bronze faces, one cannot help but feel the weight of history pressing down, an ancient enigma that teeters between artistry and the inexplicable. The masks are more than relics. They are a reminder that human history is filled with gaps, and some mysteries, it seems, are designed to endure. Perhaps the answers lie buried, waiting for future generations, or perhaps they will remain forever beyond our understanding. As we leave the enigmatic bronze masks of Sanxingdui behind, our journey takes us westward, across the mountains and deserts of South Asia, to the fertile plains cradled by the Indus and its tributaries. Here, between the waters of what is now modern-day Pakistan and northwest India, the Indus Valley civilization flourished more than 4,000 years ago. Cities like Mohenjo-Daro and Harappa reveal a level of urban planning, engineering, and societal organization that rivals ancient Mesopotamia and Egypt. Streets were laid out in precise grids, drainage systems were advanced, and the sheer scale of these settlements speaks to a sophisticated and organized civilization. Among the most tantalizing remnants of this society are thousands of small inscribed objects, steatite seals, pottery fragments, and amulets etched with tiny symbols. These marks, collectively referred to as the Indus script, are etched with meticulous care. Some symbols are simple lines or geometric shapes. Others depict animals, abstract signs, or human-like figures. Yet, despite decades of study, the meaning of these inscriptions has eluded every attempt at translation. The script is short. Most inscriptions are only a handful of characters, and it lacks a Rosetta Stone to guide modern understanding. The mystery begins with the very nature of the script. Linguists and archaeologists have debated whether it represents a full language, a proto-writing system, or a system of symbols used for trade or religious ritual. Some propose that the signs encode a spoken language, while others suggest they are mnemonic devices intended to convey concepts rather than sounds. Unlike cuneiform or Egyptian hieroglyphs, the Indus script leaves no bilingual inscriptions to offer a foothold for interpretation. Each discovery deepens the puzzle. A seal found in Mesopotamia suggests trade links, yet the symbols remain unreadable, their meaning opaque, even in contexts far from the Indus heartland. Excavations at sites like Mohenjo-Daro reveal more than just the script itself. Scholars have uncovered carefully planned granaries, public baths, and residential districts, indicating a culture that was both highly organized and highly literate in some sense. The juxtaposition is striking. These people created one of the most advanced Bronze Age societies, yet their written communication has disappeared into silence. Why would a civilization capable of such urban sophistication leave behind a written record that is now incomprehensible? Theories abound, each inviting a sense of wonder and frustration. Some argue that the script represents a language isolate, completely unrelated to any other known human tongue, making it impossible to decipher with existing linguistic tools. Others suggest that it was intentionally cryptic, a form of elite communication known only to scribes or priestly classes. Some fringe hypotheses speculate on connections with lost civilizations, or even non-human influences, though these ideas remain speculative and unverified. Yet, the very abundance and consistency of the symbols hint at a coherent system, a structured method of communication whose logic is tantalizingly just out of reach. The script's disappearance raises further questions about the civilization itself. By around 1900 BC, many Indus cities were abandoned, and the culture seems to have fragmented. Some researchers attribute this decline to environmental changes, shifting river courses, drought, or flooding, while others point to internal societal pressures or external migrations. Whatever the cause, the collapse left behind the artifacts of a once great society, and the script fell silent. Without continuous use or adaptation, its meaning became lost to time, a private language of a vanished world. Attempts to decipher the script using modern technology have yielded tantalizing hints, but no definitive answers. Statistical analysis reveals patterns, suggesting syntax and repeated sequences that may indicate words or phrases. Comparisons with other ancient scripts provide tantalizing analogies, but fail to yield translations. Computational linguistics offers promise, yet even algorithms cannot bridge the gap between symbol and meaning without a key. Each new approach underscores both the ingenuity of the civilization and the depth of the mystery they left behind. Some scholars propose that the symbols were less about verbal communication and more about social identity or economic function. Seals may have marked ownership, trade goods, or ritual significance. Could the Indus people have developed a system that functioned more like symbolic shorthand than a full written language? If so, it is a form of communication profoundly different from what most of us understand as writing, and its loss deprives us of a window into their worldview. And so the Indus script remains one of history's most profound enigmas. Each seal, each fragment, each carefully etched symbol offers a whisper from the past, but no answer. We are left to wonder, what did these signs mean to those who created them? What stories, laws, or prayers might have been encoded in these silent lines? And perhaps most hauntingly, what else has been lost, buried in the sands of time, waiting for discovery, or destined to remain forever a mystery? From the silent symbols of the Indus Valley, our journey now moves further southwest, across deserts that have witnessed the footsteps of traders, nomads, and conquerors for millennia. Here, in the vast expanse of the Arabian sands, lies a legend that has haunted explorers and archaeologists alike: the city of Ubar, often called the Atlantis of the sands. For centuries, Ubar was described in ancient texts as a thriving center of trade and wealth, built upon the frankincense routes that crisscrossed the deserts. Yet, unlike the ruins of Mohenjo-Daro or Harappa, Ubar's existence remained almost entirely in the realm of myth, a city swallowed by shifting sands and lost to time. Modern interest in Ubar began in earnest in the late 20th century, when satellite imagery revealed unusual geological formations deep in the deserts of southern Oman and the surrounding region. These formations, ancient caravan tracks, collapsed sinkholes, and eroded wadis, hinted at human activity where none had been previously documented. Excavations soon followed, uncovering remnants of walls, cisterns, and artifacts that some researchers interpreted as the long-lost city described in historical accounts. Could this be the Ubar of legend? The possibility electrified the archaeological community, offering a tantalizing bridge between myth and material evidence. Yet the excitement was accompanied by skepticism. Critics noted that the supposed city might be a cluster of modest settlements rather than a grand urban center. Some argued that the ruins were natural formations misread as human constructions, while others suggested that the name Ubar may have referred not to a single city but to a broader region along the trade routes. In the absence of definitive inscriptions or continuous urban structures, certainty proved elusive. The desert itself seems to conspire against clarity. Sandstorms sweep across dunes, erasing traces of roads and walls, while sinkholes open unexpectedly, swallowing fragments of history. Historical records offer both clues and frustration. Arabian texts from the 1st millennium BC describe cities of immense wealth built on incense, but the precise locations are vague. Some mention a kingdom destroyed by divine punishment or natural catastrophe, stories that echo the cautionary tone of lost cities in other ancient cultures. Was Ubar destroyed by climatic shifts, overexploitation of water sources, or some other unknown calamity? Or is the story of its sudden disappearance more legend than reality, a metaphor for the impermanence of human endeavors in unforgiving landscapes? The artifacts themselves are intriguing but ambiguous. Excavations have revealed foundations of mud brick structures, fragments of pottery, and stone tools. Radiocarbon dating places some of the settlement activity around the 2nd millennium BC, overlapping with the height of incense trade in southern Arabia. Satellite surveys map caravan tracks converging on the site from multiple directions, suggesting a hub of commerce and movement. Yet none of these finds provide a definitive answer. Were these remains of a major urban center, or simply a trading waypoint intermittently inhabited by desert travelers? Speculative theories, both cautious and bold, abound. Some scholars have suggested that Ubar could have been a complex of interconnected oasis settlements rather than a single monumental city. Others entertain the idea that the city was literally swallowed by the desert. Collapsing limestone caves and shifting sands may have erased it almost entirely from view. The legend of divine retribution, cities destroyed overnight for hubris or moral failings, adds a layer of narrative mystique, raising questions about how much of ancient storytelling is metaphor and how much may hint at real catastrophic events. Technology has brought new tools to the debate. LiDAR and satellite imagery allow researchers to map subtle traces of human activity hidden beneath desert sands, revealing patterns invisible at ground level. These surveys show linear depressions resembling caravan paths, clusters of stone and mud foundations, and even what may be ancient water channels. Each discovery raises more questions than it answers. How extensive was human habitation? How organized were these settlements? And why does the archaeological record remain so fragmented, leaving us with glimpses rather than a full picture? The intrigue of Ubar lies not only in what has been found, but in what may never be recovered. Deserts are living landscapes, constantly reshaped by wind, rain, and shifting geology. Even now, after decades of exploration, parts of the region remain inaccessible, hidden under dunes or behind steep wadis. And with each storm, the sands shift, erasing traces of structures and roads that may have connected oasis settlements into a network of commerce and culture. The desert is both a preserver and an eraser of history, granting fleeting glimpses of the past while concealing the full story from those who seek it. As we consider the debate over Ubar, a pattern emerges familiar from our journey so far. Human ingenuity and ambition leave traces, but time, nature, and chance often obscure their meaning. The city, whether grand or modest, real or partly mythologized, reminds us that history is rarely neat and complete. Some secrets may never be fully recovered, and some legends may be grounded in fragments of truth that the sands have jealously guarded for millennia. Even now, standing on the edges of the desert, the wind carrying grains of sand across ancient ruins, one can almost imagine the caravans approaching, laden with incense and spices, the city bustling at dawn before vanishing into obscurity. And yet, we are left with the uncertainty. Was Ubar truly swallowed by the sands, or is its story more enduring in myth than in stone? The mystery persists, inviting us to ponder what else lies hidden beneath the desert floor, waiting for discovery, or destined to remain forever beyond reach. From the vast, shifting deserts of Arabia, our exploration now returns to the quiet, rolling countryside of medieval England, to the village of Woolpit in Suffolk. Nestled among gentle hills and flanked by dense woodlands, Woolpit appears timeless, as if little has changed over centuries. It is here, in the heart of rural England, that a story emerges from the 12th century, a tale both strange and haunting, the tale of the Green Children of Woolpit. Unlike the grand ruins of ancient cities or the cryptic symbols of vanished civilizations, this story begins not with stones and inscriptions, but with two living children whose very existence defied explanation. According to contemporary chroniclers, two children, brother and sister, were found near the wolf pits for which the village was named. Their skin was a greenish hue, their hair strange, their clothes unfamiliar, and they spoke a language no one could understand. They seemed disoriented, bewildered, and terrified of the ordinary world around them. Local villagers, both fearful and fascinated, brought the children into their care, attempting to feed them and communicate. Yet even as they began to eat ordinary food, their green coloration slowly faded, leaving observers to marvel at the transformation. Historical records from chroniclers such as Ralph of Coggeshall and William of Newburgh provide the main accounts of this phenomenon. The children were described in remarkable detail, their eyes unusually large, their behavior cautious and observant, their speech initially indecipherable. Over time, the boy grew sickly and died, while the girl survived and eventually learned to speak English, claiming that she and her brother had come from a place called St. Martin's Land, a subterranean world entirely unfamiliar to those who heard her story. The mystery of the Green Children lies not only in their unusual appearance, but in their origins. Scholars have long debated possible explanations, ranging from the natural to the extraordinary. Some suggest that the green hue was caused by dietary deficiencies, perhaps a lack of sunlight or chlorosis, a condition linked to anemia. Others propose that the children were Flemish immigrants, lost and malnourished, whose unusual skin coloration and language were simply markers of a difficult journey and isolation. Yet even these rational explanations leave questions unanswered. Why were both children green? Why did they appear simultaneously near the same location? Speculative theories invite the imagination to wander further. Some interpretations suggest a folkloric dimension, a lost world beneath the surface, inhabited by people who live apart from the sun. Others have connected the story to tales of fairies, subterranean civilizations, or parallel realms, framing the children as visitors from beyond the ordinary world. The consistency of multiple historical accounts, however, ensures that the story cannot be dismissed entirely as legend. The details, dates, names, and the slow fading of the children's green color suggest a historical kernel that is difficult to reconcile with purely fantastical interpretations. The setting itself adds to the intrigue. Woolpit, with its dense forests, hidden streams, and the eponymous wolf pits, creates an environment that feels both ordinary and uncanny. It is easy to imagine a child wandering into the woods, becoming lost, and emerging days later in a strange state. Yet the descriptions defy simple explanation. Could a combination of isolation, malnutrition, and psychological stress have produced such a dramatic transformation in both children simultaneously? Or does the story point to something more profound, a fleeting glimpse into human experience that borders on the inexplicable? The Green Children also raise questions about perception, memory, and the passage of time. Chroniclers of the 12th century were meticulous in certain respects, but could embellish narratives in others, particularly when events seemed extraordinary. Yet even allowing for embellishment, the consistency of multiple accounts, spanning different chroniclers and regions, suggests that the phenomenon was witnessed and recorded with some fidelity. The challenge is separating the factual core from interpretive layers added by storytellers and the medieval imagination. Modern examinations have revisited the story through a variety of lenses. Anthropologists, medical historians, and folklorists analyze the tale for clues about medieval society, childhood, and nutrition. Genetic conditions, such as methemoglobinemia, a disorder affecting the oxygen-carrying capacity of blood, have been proposed as possible explanations for the green coloration. Psychological theories consider trauma and social displacement as factors shaping the children's behavior. Yet, as with many historical mysteries, the evidence remains fragmentary, leaving interpretations open and often contradictory. The enduring fascination of the green children of Woolpit lies in their liminal position between the familiar and the unknown. They were human, yet marked by strangeness. They lived among ordinary villagers, yet carried a story that challenged everything those villagers understood about the world. Their tale invites reflection on the boundaries of human experience. What might exist at the edges of our perception, and how many such stories have been lost, unrecorded, or transformed over centuries? Even today, walking through the quiet lanes of Woolpit, imagining the children appearing from the shadows near the wolf pits, one senses a subtle tension between the ordinary and the extraordinary. The village endures, largely unchanged, yet the story lingers, a reminder that history contains moments of profound mystery that resist explanation. What truly happened to the green children? Where did they come from? And what truths lie hidden in their unusual appearance and brief, fleeting presence? As with the lost cities, enigmatic scripts, and vanished civilizations we have explored so far, this tale remains unsolved, a whisper from the past inviting us to wonder, to question, and to imagine what else might still be hidden in the folds of history. From the quiet village lanes of Woolpit, where the mysterious green children once appeared, our journey returns to the vast, shifting deserts of Arabia. Here, under the relentless sun and amidst dunes that stretch beyond the horizon, lies the legend of Iram, a city of unimaginable wealth and splendor, often called the Atlantis of the Sands in ancient Arabian lore. Unlike other lost cities, Iram exists primarily in texts, its streets, towers, and grand marketplaces described in vivid prose, yet leaving no definitive trace on the land itself. The desert preserves and erases in equal measure, concealing secrets beneath layers of sand and time. According to the Qumran and various pre-Islamic sources, Iram was a city of towering pillars, filled with inhabitants of extraordinary skill and wealth. It was said to lie at the edges of the Arabian desert, a hub of trade and prosperity, flourishing on the exchange of spices, incense, and other precious commodities. Yet, like the legendary Atlantis, Iram's fate was catastrophic. Stories speak of divine punishment, an unforgiving desert swallowing the city overnight, leaving nothing but sand and memory. Archaeologists have long searched for evidence, following the faint echoes of caravan routes and oasis settlements across Oman, Yemen, and the broader Arabian Peninsula. Modern explorers have attempted to locate Iram using a combination of historical texts, satellite imagery, and archaeological surveys. Some suggest that the ruins identified in southern Oman may correspond to Iram, possibly linked with the ancient frankincense trade. Excavations have revealed traces of wells, collapsed structures, and artifacts indicating a society deeply engaged in commerce. Yet no urban footprint has definitively matched the grandeur described in legend. Could the city described in the texts have existed as a collection of prosperous towns and trading posts, rather than a single monumental metropolis? Historical records hint at both plausibility and enigma. Pre-Islamic poets mention Iram as a city of marvels, a place where wealth and innovation reached their peak. Later Islamic scholars reference its destruction, often framing it as a cautionary tale of pride and hubris. The recurring motif of a city punished for its excess and arrogance adds a moral dimension to the narrative, but it also complicates efforts to identify archaeological correlates. Were the ancient accounts purely allegorical, or do they preserve echoes of real events buried under centuries of shifting sands? The geography itself challenges discovery. The deserts of southern Arabia are dynamic and treacherous. Shifting dunes, sudden wadis, and hidden sinkholes can erase entire settlements within decades. Ancient caravan routes, critical for trade and communication, have long since disappeared, leaving only faint depressions in the terrain. Even when archaeologists identify promising sites, the desert's harshness limits excavation, and much of the region remains unexplored. The sands are both a guardian and a concealer, keeping the city's secrets intact for centuries. Some scholars have proposed that Iram may correspond to Ubar, the so-called Atlantis of the sands, whose ruins have been partially excavated in Oman. Excavations revealed a series of stone foundations, ancient wells, and caravan pathways that suggest a hub of trade. Yet, the link remains speculative. Was Iram a distinct city, or merely another name for settlements along the frankincense routes? Perhaps the story of Iram, like other lost cities, is a conflation of multiple settlements magnified into myth over generations. Speculative theories invite the imagination to consider even stranger possibilities. Could Iram have been an advanced society with knowledge or technologies lost to time, erased not only by the desert, but by human forgetfulness? Some propose subterranean structures, hidden oasis complexes, or forgotten engineering marvels beneath the sand. Others suggest that Iram's destruction may have been environmental. A sudden drought, shifting rivers, or seismic activity could have rendered the area uninhabitable. Each hypothesis offers tantalizing explanations, yet none resolves the core mystery. The city, if it existed, has left no conclusive, verifiable trace. The artifacts uncovered in the region hint at human ingenuity, but also raise more questions than they answer. Fragments of pottery, tools, and remnants of irrigation systems indicate a society capable of significant adaptation to the desert environment. Yet the scale and sophistication implied by textual sources remain largely invisible. How could such a prosperous city vanish so completely that only legend preserves its memory? The pattern is familiar to those who study vanished civilizations. Remarkable human achievement, followed by sudden disappearance, leaving behind tantalizing fragments and enduring questions. Iram's legend also speaks to the human need to explain loss, mystery, and the impermanence of human endeavors. The city has survived in poetry, religious texts, and folklore, yet physical evidence remains scarce. This interplay between recorded memory and material absence invites reflection on how societies are remembered or forgotten over time. What truths lie buried beneath the dunes? Were the stories of Iram an exaggeration of reality, or a faithful account of a real city lost to history's sands? Even today, as archaeologists comb the desert for hints of walls, roads, or artifacts, the legend of Iram continues to captivate. Standing on the edge of an empty wadi, one can imagine the bustling streets, towering structures, and caravans laden with spices and incense. And yet, all that remains is the shifting sand, silent and unyielding. The mystery endures, reminding us that some chapters of human history may never be fully recovered, leaving only questions for the curious. What truly became of Iram? Was it a city swallowed by divine punishment, a hub of trade erased by environmental forces, or a legend preserving fragments of a lost civilization? The sands hold their secrets still, waiting for those daring enough to seek them. From the shifting sands of Arabia, where the lost city of Iram once stirred imaginations, we turn our gaze to the banks of the Nile, where the civilization of ancient Egypt carved its mark into stone, sky, and history. In the granite quarries of Aswan, nestled on the west bank of the river, lies one of the most compelling and silent mysteries of Egyptian engineering, the unfinished obelisk. Unlike the towering monoliths that still pierce the skyline of Luxor and Carnac, this colossal stone was never completed. Yet even in its abandoned state, it reveals remarkable insights into the skill, ambition, and unanswered questions of its creators. The unfinished obelisk lies horizontally in the quarry, still attached to the bedrock from which it was being carved. Measuring approximately 42 meters in length and weighing an estimated 1,200 tons, it would have been the largest obelisk ever erected. Its surface, partially smoothed, reflects sunlight in a muted, almost ethereal glow. Chisel marks crisscross the granite, a tangible record of human effort frozen in time. Yet, somewhere during the laborious process, the work halted. The reasons remain uncertain, leaving us to wonder why a civilization so advanced in engineering, mathematics, and logistics would abandon a project of such significance. Archaeological studies suggest that a crack appeared in the granite as the artisans attempted to carve it free from the bedrock. Granite, extraordinarily hard and unforgiving, can fracture unpredictably, and a flaw of even a few millimeters could compromise the stability of the entire monument. In this light, the abandonment may have been a practical decision. An incomplete obelisk, if erected, could have split under its own weight or collapsed catastrophically, risking lives and prestige. Yet this explanation, while plausible, only scratches the surface of the mystery. Why was such an enormous single-piece monolith attempted in the first place? And how did the Egyptians plan to transport and erect a stone of such magnitude? The quarry itself adds layers to the enigma. The surrounding area is scattered with evidence of other obelisk projects, smaller, completed stones that rose successfully, and several abandoned works that hint at trial and error on an extraordinary scale. Tools of dolerite, copper, and wooden sledges lie alongside chisel marks, illustrating the methods employed by workers to shape and move stone hundreds of tons in weight. Modern engineers continue to marvel at the precision of these ancient techniques, which relied on intuition, labor organization, and sheer determination rather than cranes or engines. Could the unfinished obelisk have been an experiment in scale, an ambitious attempt to test the limits of human ingenuity in stone? Speculative interpretations deepen the mystery. Some scholars suggest that the obelisk was intended as a monumental tribute to a pharaoh, possibly Hatshepsut or Thutmose III, whose reigns were marked by grand architectural projects. The sheer size and ambition of the stone may have been intended to communicate divine authority and eternal presence. Yet the failure of the project raises questions. Did the abandonment reflect practical considerations alone, or could it hint at political or ritual factors lost to time? Was there a symbolic reason for leaving it incomplete, a statement intentionally frozen in granite? Beyond the technical and historical dimensions, the unfinished obelisk invites reflection on the human relationship with ambition, impermanence, and the natural world. Granite is both durable and capricious, and even the most skilled artisans are subject to its constraints. The horizontal monolith, half-carved, becomes a silent testament to trial, adaptation, and the limits of human mastery. It embodies the tension between aspiration and reality, a project meant to reach for the heavens, yet held back by the unpredictable forces of nature. Even the location of Aswan contributes to the intrigue. The quarries were not merely industrial sites. They were sacred spaces, intertwined with religious belief, cosmology, and the power of the pharaohs. Transporting an obelisk from Aswan to the temples of the Nile Valley required careful planning, coordination along the river, and enormous human effort. The abandonment of the unfinished obelisk, therefore, represents more than a technical problem. It is a glimpse into a civilization negotiating ambition, resources, and risk on a monumental scale. The partially carved stone, lying undisturbed for millennia, allows modern observers to imagine the process in real time. Workers using sledges to shift granite blocks, teams of men laboring along the river, artisans chiseling with meticulous care, all striving to realize a vision that ultimately could not be completed. And yet, even in its unfinished state, the obelisk conveys power, precision, and aesthetic intent. Its existence raises questions about ancient priorities. How did the Egyptians balance practicality and symbolism, risk and reward, perfection and pragmatism? The mystery persists because much of the human context is irretrievably lost. We have the stone, the marks, and the remnants of tools, but the decisions, judgments, and intentions behind the abandonment remain hidden. Did the crack truly make completion impossible, or did other factors, economic, political, or spiritual, play a role? Are there aspects of Egyptian engineering and project management that we will never fully understand, preserved only in these silent traces in the quarry? Standing before the unfinished obelisk today, one is struck by its scale, its ambition, and the profound human story embedded in granite. It is a monument not only to the Egyptians' mastery of stone, but to the mysteries that endure when ambition meets the unpredictable forces of nature. Perhaps it is fitting that the obelisk was never completed. It reminds us that history is as much about what remains unfinished as it is about what survives. And as we trace the chisel marks along its surface, we are left with the same question that has haunted observers for centuries. What more might the Egyptians have achieved, and what other secrets lie hidden, waiting to be revealed in the quarries of Aswan? From the enduring granite of Aswan and the ambitions etched into the unfinished obelisk, our exploration now crosses continents, spanning thousands of miles to the floodplains of the Mississippi River in North America. Here, near what is now St. Louis, Missouri, lie the remnants of a civilization that once rivaled the great cities of the ancient world, the Cahokia Mounds. Stretching across hundreds of acres, these earthen pyramids and ceremonial platforms rise from the landscape like echoes of a lost empire, silent yet monumental reminders of human ingenuity, organization, and cultural sophistication. At its height, around 1050 to 1200 AD, Cahokia was the largest pre-Columbian city north of Mexico, home to tens of thousands of inhabitants. The city's core was dominated by Monk's Mound, an immense earthen structure covering over 14 acres and rising more than 30 meters high. Surrounding it were dozens of smaller mounds, plazas, and residential areas carefully aligned with astronomical events, suggesting a society deeply attuned to the rhythms of the sun, moon, and stars. Archaeologists have uncovered evidence of complex trade networks, connecting Cahokia with distant regions for the exchange of shells, copper, and other exotic goods. Yet for all its achievement, the city's sudden decline around 1250 AD remains shrouded in mystery. Mainstream theories of Cahokia's collapse focus on environmental and social factors. Climate data indicates that the region experienced a series of prolonged droughts, which would have strained agriculture and disrupted food supplies. Deforestation for building and fuel may have caused soil erosion, further limiting crop yields. Some scholars suggest that the city's rapid growth could have led to social tensions, political instability, or resource competition, making the society vulnerable to collapse. Yet none of these explanations fully account for the speed and extent of Cahokia's decline, nor for the disappearance of its monumental structures and complex urban organization. The mystery deepens when considering the scale and sophistication of the city. Cahokia was not a simple village. It was a planned urban center with carefully laid out streets, defensive palisades, and ceremonial precincts. Its mounds were constructed using remarkable engineering techniques, moving millions of cubic meters of soil by hand. How could a society capable of such achievement dissipate so completely within a few generations? Were there internal conflicts, epidemics, or external pressures that remain undetectable in the archaeological record? The answers are elusive, leaving researchers to speculate with fragments of evidence and informed imagination. Artifacts from Cahokia provide tantalizing glimpses into daily life and ritual. Stone tools, intricately carved figurines, and engraved shell gorgets suggest a society with complex religious and cultural practices. Burials reveal stratified social hierarchies, while spatial patterns hint at centralized authority and governance. Yet despite this evidence of sophistication, the record abruptly ends, as if the city was abandoned, its population dispersing across the Mississippi Valley. What drove this migration, and why did the Cahokians not return or maintain the monumental structures they had painstakingly created? Some theories venture further into speculation. Could Cahokia have suffered from internal social upheaval, a breakdown in leadership or ritual authority that eroded cohesion? Might external pressures, such as raiding groups or interregional conflicts, have forced a rapid exodus? Others suggest that a combination of environmental stressors and socio-political factors created a tipping point, a moment when even a highly organized society could no longer sustain itself. The evidence remains fragmentary, leaving space for imagination while firmly grounded in archaeological findings. The geography of Cahokia itself contributes to the enigma. Located on the fertile but flood-prone floodplains of the Mississippi, the city benefited from rich soils and access to trade routes, yet it also faced natural hazards. Seasonal flooding, storms, and changing river courses would have posed continual challenges. Could an accumulation of these environmental pressures have made the city increasingly unsustainable, forcing inhabitants to abandon the mounds for safer lands? And if so, why do we see little continuity of the Cahokian cultural patterns in the surrounding regions after the collapse? The collapse of Cahokia echoes themes we have encountered in other historical mysteries: human ambition, environmental limits, and the fragility of complex societies. Like the unfinished obelisk, it illustrates the tension between human mastery and nature's unpredictability. Unlike monumental stone, however, earthen mounds are more vulnerable to time and weather, making the traces of Cahokia's greatness simultaneously impressive and fragile. Its disappearance serves as a reminder that even highly developed societies are susceptible to forces beyond their control, leaving us to interpret the silent evidence they leave behind. Standing today amidst the fields and forests of modern Illinois, the mounds rise quietly against the horizon, a testament to lives lived, labor invested, and culture expressed. Visitors can walk the ceremonial plazas, trace the outlines of Monk's Mound, and imagine the bustling streets filled with traders, artisans, and families. Yet the questions endure. Why did Cahokia fall so rapidly? What factors converged to bring an extraordinary city to its knees? And what lessons does this disappearance hold for understanding the rise and fall of civilizations throughout history? The mystery of Cahokia is both local and universal. It reminds us that human achievement, no matter how grand, exists within a complex interplay of environment, culture, and chance. The mounds themselves are silent witnesses, speaking volumes in their presence, yet withholding the full story of a city that once dominated a continent's heartland. As we ponder the collapse, we are left to wonder not only about Cahokia's past, but about the hidden vulnerabilities and resilience of human societies everywhere, waiting to be discovered or understood. From the silent earthen mounds of Cahokia, reminders of vanished cities and abrupt collapses, our journey returns once again to the banks of the Nile, to a period of turbulence and intrigue in ancient Egypt. Here, amid the deserts and river valleys of Upper Egypt, a king met a death that would puzzle historians for millennia. Pharaoh Seqenenre of the 17th dynasty. Unlike the monumental obelisks and tombs that dominate our understanding of Egyptian rulers, Seqenenre's story is etched not in triumphant monuments, but in the traces of violence preserved on his own body, a puzzle that continues to intrigue scholars, archaeologists, and forensic experts alike. Seqenenre Tao ruled during a time of intense conflict when the Hyksos, foreign rulers from the northeast, held sway over the northern Nile Delta. His reign was marked by the early stages of resistance against these occupiers, laying the groundwork for the eventual reunification of Egypt under his successors. Yet it is the circumstances of his death that remain enigmatic. When his mummified remains were examined, the evidence was striking. Multiple severe head wounds, deep lacerations to the skull, and injuries inconsistent with natural causes. The body reveals the hallmarks of a violent end, but the sequence and exact circumstances are debated even today. The mummy itself provides extraordinary insight. X-ray imaging and modern forensic analysis reveal at least 5 distinct injuries to the head, each inflicted by different weapons, possibly including battle axes, daggers, and spears. One blow appears to have fractured the cranium completely, suggesting the final strike was sudden and fatal. The severity of the wounds implies that Seqenenre was immobilized or restrained at the time, raising questions about whether he died on the battlefield, in captivity, or in some form of ritualized execution. The body also shows signs of post-mortem embalming, yet the process seems hasty, perhaps reflecting the urgency of preserving the remains during a period of political turmoil. Historical records provide hints but no definitive answers. Some accounts suggest Seqenenre led a military campaign against the Hyksos and was captured or overwhelmed during battle. Others propose he may have been assassinated while sleeping or taken unprepared, betrayed by insiders within his own court. The alignment of wounds and their placement on the skull suggest close-range combat rather than a battlefield scenario, but this interpretation remains speculative. What is clear is that his death was violent, sudden, and politically significant, an event that would have reverberated across the fragile kingdom of Upper Egypt. The location and context of his death also add layers of intrigue. Seqenenre's mummy was discovered centuries later in the Deir el-Bahari cache, far from any known battlefield. The embalming techniques, though advanced for the period, appear inconsistent with standard royal mummification practices, suggesting that the body may have been treated under unusual circumstances. Was the hasty burial a response to political instability, or might it have been intended to obscure the exact manner of death from enemies and future historians? Speculative interpretations abound, bridging history, forensics, and even the human imagination. Could Seqenenre have faced a formal execution orchestrated by the Hyksos, intended as a warning to other Egyptian leaders? Was his death a tragic miscalculation in a daring military campaign, or the result of courtly intrigue and betrayal? Some scholars suggest that the severity of his wounds points to an up-close confrontation, perhaps in his own quarters, rather than in the chaos of open combat. Each possibility raises more questions than answers, reflecting the limits of both historical records and forensic reconstruction. The story of Seqenenre Tao also speaks to the broader human dimensions of leadership in conflict. He ruled during a time of existential threat, and his death, violent and dramatic, underscores the fragility of power, even for those crowned as divine rulers. The wounds on his body are not merely medical evidence, they are a narrative, silently telling of a struggle for freedom, a kingdom under siege, and a man who may have faced his end in the pursuit of resistance. Artifacts from the period provide context, but not resolution. Weapons of similar design to those inferred from his injuries have been found at archaeological sites, yet none can confirm exactly who struck the fatal blows. Textual references from the period are sparse, fragmented, and often propagandistic, emphasizing victories while omitting inconvenient defeats or humiliations. Even the geographical details of the Hyksos strongholds remain partially obscure, leaving the battlefield, if indeed there was one, a landscape only partially recoverable through archaeology. As we examine Seqenenre Tao's story today, we are confronted with the duality of evidence and mystery. The body, preserved across millennia, provides undeniable physical truth, while the circumstances surrounding his death remain tantalizingly out of reach. It is a reminder that history is rarely neat. It is shaped by politics, human ambition, and chance, leaving gaps that modern inquiry can illuminate, but not always fully explain. Standing before his remains, one can almost imagine the tension of the period. A ruler weighing strategies against formidable foreign powers, courtiers whispering in shadowed halls, and the sudden violence that ended a life abruptly. What truly happened that night, or on that battlefield? Was Seqenenre Tao's death the result of chance, miscalculation, or deliberate design? And how did this singular, violent event shape the trajectory of Egypt, paving the way for his successors to eventually expel the Hyksos and reunify the kingdom? The mystery endures, bridging the worlds of archaeology, history, and human imagination. Seqenenre Tao's life and death remind us that even in societies that have left behind vast monuments and records, there remain moments that evade explanation. His story is a testament to courage, conflict, and the enduring enigma of history, a silent challenge to those who seek to understand not just what happened, but why it happened, and what secrets might still lie hidden in the shadows of the past. From the violent intrigue of Pharaoh Seqenenre Tao's final moments along the Nile, our journey now shifts across oceans to the turquoise waters of the Atlantic, where a sunken enigma lies quietly beneath the waves. Near North Bimini Island in the Bahamas, divers have discovered a formation that has sparked fascination and debate for decades: the Bimini Road. Stretching roughly 900 meters along the seafloor, this alignment of massive, flat limestone blocks presents a puzzle that has captivated archaeologists, oceanographers, and explorers alike. At first glance, the stones appear deliberately arranged, their edges roughly rectangular, creating a pathway that seems almost too orderly to be the product of nature alone. The Bimini Road was first widely publicized in 1968 when diver and amateur archaeologist William McGillivray mapped the site. The stones range in size from small slabs to massive boulders, some measuring several meters across. They lie partially buried in sand, forming linear patterns that stretch into the shallows. The composition of the limestone, the arrangement of the blocks, and their apparent alignment suggest a formation far older than any European colonial activity in the region. Yet despite decades of study, no definitive explanation has emerged. Mainstream scientific interpretations generally describe the Bimini Road as a natural feature: beach rock formations that have fractured along joints and faults, then tumbled and settled into the seafloor in linear patterns. Ocean currents, erosion, and other geological processes can produce surprisingly regular arrangements of stone, giving the illusion of human construction. Indeed, many geologists point to characteristics of the limestone itself, its bedding planes and erosion patterns, to support a purely natural origin. Yet, even as this explanation is plausible, the formation's striking geometry continues to provoke wonder and curiosity. Alternative theories explore the possibility of human involvement, although evidence is circumstantial. Some suggest that the stones may be remnants of an ancient pre-Columbian road, harbor, or platform, possibly dating to a time when sea levels were lower. Could they represent the remains of a coastal settlement lost to rising oceans? Others have speculated about links to the legends of Atlantis, imagining a sophisticated civilization submerged beneath the Atlantic thousands of years ago. While these ideas remain controversial and largely speculative, they underscore the formation's capacity to stir the imagination, bridging tangible observation with enduring mystery. The ocean environment itself complicates study. Currents shift sands, Marine life colonizes surfaces, and storms periodically rearrange sediments. Mapping the Bimini Road requires careful underwater surveys and repeated measurement, yet even the most thorough explorations leave questions unanswered. How much of the formation lies buried beneath the sand? Are there stones missing, displaced, or moved naturally over centuries? And if human hands were involved, what tools, methods, or intentions guided such a construction in a time long before modern technology? Artifacts recovered nearby add tantalizing but inconclusive hints. Shells and pottery fragments have been found on and around the stones, though dating and origin are debated. Some suggest these finds indicate human activity in the area, possibly supporting the notion of ancient maritime trade or settlement. Others argue that ocean currents could have transported such artifacts from distant sites, leaving the formation itself untouched by human construction. The ambiguity underscores the central enigma. The Bimini Road lies at the intersection of geological processes, sea level change, and human curiosity. Speculative interpretations, while debated, offer compelling scenarios. Some imagine a coastal road built by a forgotten culture, perhaps linking settlements or facilitating trade. Others envision ceremonial or ritual platforms, deliberately constructed along the shoreline for purposes now lost to memory. The geometry, alignment, and scale of the formation, whether natural or human-influenced, invite questions about intention, function, and significance. Could a civilization have thrived along these shores when sea levels were lower, leaving traces now partially submerged? And if so, what other structures might lie hidden nearby, buried beneath centuries of sand and silt? Beyond technical and archaeological inquiry, the Bimini Road engages with broader reflections on perception and interpretation. Humans are pattern-seeking creatures, prone to reading intention and design into the natural world. Yet, even if the formation is the result of geological forces alone, it remains a remarkable demonstration of nature's capacity to surprise and inspire. The interplay between observation, hypothesis, and imagination transforms the stones from inert rock into a silent narrative, inviting us to wonder at the mysteries of the past and the forces that shape our planet. As divers glide above the submerged blocks, sunlight refracts through the turquoise water, illuminating the edges of the limestone slabs and casting shifting shadows on the sandy floor. The scene is almost cinematic, a landscape both familiar and alien, human in its symmetry yet undeniably molded by the ocean's hand. It is a place that feels suspended between time, where natural history and potential human history intersect, and where questions outweigh answers. The enduring fascination of the Bimini Road lies in its ambiguity. It challenges our understanding of geology, archaeology, and human history simultaneously. Whether a natural formation or the remnants of ancient engineering, it reminds us that not all mysteries yield to immediate explanation. What stories lie beneath the Atlantic waves? Were these stones ever part of human activity? Or are they a remarkable quirk of nature, perfectly aligned to spark imagination? And what else remains hidden beneath the seas, waiting to reveal the traces of lost civilizations or untold natural wonders? Here, in the shallow waters off Bimini, the past remains elusive, yet profoundly present. The formation invites us to explore, to question, and to reflect on the ways humans and nature intertwine in the shaping of history. And as we peer beneath the rippling waves, we are reminded once more that some mysteries are defined not by resolution, but by the very act of curiosity itself, lingering beneath the surface, waiting to be discovered, or perhaps never fully understood. From the sunlit turquoise waters of Bimini, where stone formations blur the line between nature and human intention, our journey now crosses to the Aegean Sea, to the island of Crete. Amid its rugged hills and fertile valleys lies a small archaeological site that has captured the fascination of linguists, historians, and mystery seekers for nearly a century. Phaistos. And at the heart of this site rests a single artifact whose origin, purpose, and meaning continue to elude explanation: the Phaistos disk. Small, circular, and unassuming at first glance, this clay disk bears one of the most enigmatic inscriptions in human history. Every swirl of its spiral, every symbol pressed into its surface, invites both wonder and profound uncertainty. Discovered in 1908 by Italian archaeologist Luigi Pernier, the Phaistos disk measures just over 15 centimeters in diameter, yet it is a remarkable feat of craftsmanship. Its surface is covered in 241 symbols arranged in a continuous spiral, stamped rather than inscribed, suggesting the use of movable type millennia before Gutenberg. The disk dates to around 1700 BC, placing it squarely within the Minoan civilization, a society known for its vibrant art, elaborate palaces, and sophisticated trade networks. Yet, unlike the Linear A or Linear B scripts of the period, the symbols of the Phaistos disk remain undeciphered, a linguistic puzzle frozen in clay. The symbols themselves are both intricate and evocative: human figures, animals, plants, tools, and abstract shapes, each repeated in varying sequences along the spiral. Some sequences suggest syntax, perhaps akin to words or phrases, while others seem more decorative or symbolic. Despite decades of study, no consensus has been reached regarding the language, meaning, or function of the disk. Could it be a religious text, a magical talisman, a hymn, or a record of trade and administration? Every hypothesis, from the plausible to the extraordinary, underscores the profound mystery the artifact presents. Mainstream interpretations generally consider the disk a product of the Minoan culture, possibly related to ritual or administrative activity. The repetitive stamping of symbols indicates intention and careful planning, suggesting literacy or semiotic awareness beyond mere artistic decoration. Some scholars propose that it could be a type of mnemonic device, aiding memory for ceremonial recitation, while others suggest a calendrical or astronomical function. Yet the absence of other artifacts using the same symbols prevents definitive understanding, isolating the disk as a singular enigma. The disk's singularity raises deeper questions. Why does only one example survive? Could it be a prototype, a ceremonial object, or a lost class of Minoan records yet to be discovered? Was it intentionally buried and forgotten, or merely a rare remnant preserved by chance in the layers of Phaistos? Each possibility offers tantalizing scenarios but no certainty, leaving researchers to reconstruct context from absence rather than abundance. Speculative interpretations expand the mystery further. Some theorists have suggested that the disk represents an unknown Minoan language, perhaps spoken on Crete, or a distant island in the Aegean. Others posit it may contain religious or esoteric content, encoded in a symbolic system designed to be understood only by a select few. Fringe theories even propose links to lost civilizations or outside influences, imagining connections across the Mediterranean long before known cultural exchanges. While these ideas remain unproven, they illustrate the disk's enduring capacity to inspire curiosity and wonder. The very craftsmanship of the disk adds to its intrigue. The precision of the stamped symbols implies the use of standardized stamps, a form of movable type, which predates known typographic methods by thousands of years. The spiral arrangement itself is unique, suggesting both aesthetic sophistication and perhaps functional purpose, guiding the eye in a continuous, rhythmic reading. How did the Minoans conceive of such a form? What level of abstract thinking or symbolic literacy was required to produce it? And why is it the only known example of this method? The Phaistos disk also highlights the fragility of historical memory. Despite the Minoans' monumental palaces, elaborate frescoes, and extensive trade networks, so little of their writing survives in a form that can be confidently interpreted. The disc stands as a solitary witness, a fragment of thought that bridges a gap of more than 3 millennia. It embodies the tension between human creativity and the ephemerality of meaning, a message carefully crafted yet undecipherable to us, a voice echoing across time but silenced by loss and obscurity. As one contemplates the disc, its spiral pattern seems almost hypnotic, drawing the eye inward toward the center, inviting speculation, analysis, and imagination. Each symbol may hold a story, a ritual, a record, but the full narrative remains just beyond reach. How many other examples once existed? What knowledge or traditions might they have contained? And what does the disc tell us about the Minoans themselves, their literacy, their beliefs, and the sophistication of a civilization that flourished yet left so many unanswered questions? Even today, the Phaistos disc continues to inspire wonder, debate, and exploration. It challenges modern scholars to reconcile artistry, language, and archaeology in a way few artifacts do. It is a reminder that history is not always fully accessible, that some mysteries are preserved not through abundance, but through their singular, tantalizing presence. And as we trace the spiral of symbols with our eyes, we are left with a persistent question. What secrets lie encoded in that clay, and how much of human knowledge has been lost, leaving only tantalizing whispers from the distant past? From the spiraling symbols pressed into the clay of the Phaistos disc, where a single artifact holds the memory of an ancient civilization just out of reach, our journey now carries us across oceans once more, to the Pacific waters off the southern tip of Japan. Here, beneath the cerulean depths near Yonaguni Island, lies a submerged formation that has ignited fascination, controversy, and decades of investigation, the Yonaguni Monument. At first glance, the structure appears almost impossibly regular for a feature shaped by the ocean, with terraces, steps, flat platforms, and angular edges that evoke the precision of human craftsmanship. Yet, whether the formation is entirely natural, entirely man-made, or a remarkable combination of both remains one of archaeology's most enduring questions. Discovered in 1986 by a local diver named Kihachiro Aratake, the Yonaguni Formation stretches over 150 meters along the seabed, descending in terraces that drop as much as 25 meters below the surface. Massive stone blocks, some weighing tens of tons, seem stacked or aligned with deliberate intent. Ridges, right angles, and flat surfaces hint at design rather than randomness, while submerged channels and grooves suggest pathways or water management features. The formation lies near strong currents, and the clarity of the water, combined with sunlight filtering through, makes the terraces appear almost ethereal, a city frozen in time beneath the waves. Mainstream geologists initially argued that the Yonaguni structure is a natural phenomenon, shaped by tectonic activity and erosion over hundreds of thousands of years. The rocks are composed primarily of sandstone and mudstone, layered in such a way that fault lines and natural fractures could create stepped terraces, flat platforms, and straight edges. Proponents of this view point to the region's seismic activity, pointing out that the ocean floor near Japan is subject to frequent earthquakes, landslides, and slumping, all capable of producing formations that resemble human construction. Yet even geologists acknowledge that the scale and regularity of the terraces, as well as certain features like the pyramid and the massive stone slab resembling a table, make purely natural explanations seem incomplete. Proponents of human involvement argue that the structure may be the remnants of a prehistoric city, submerged due to rising sea levels at the end of the last ice age. Some suggest that if the structure were constructed around 10,000 to 12,000 years ago, sea levels would have been significantly lower, placing Yonaguni's terraces above water, accessible to humans. In this scenario, the formation could represent a city, ceremonial complex, or monumental architecture built by a culture entirely lost to history. Tools for carving stone, transportation methods, and architectural planning would have been required, yet no direct evidence of such a civilization has yet been found on land. The theory remains tantalizing. The monument could be a window into a forgotten epoch, long submerged and erased from memory. The shape and scale of the structure are striking. Divers report straight edges, sharp corners, and terraces that descend with geometric regularity. There are also features resembling staircases, roads, and even walls, as well as grooves and channels that might have facilitated water drainage or ritual processions. Some stones appear fitted together, echoing construction techniques seen in other ancient civilizations. Could these formations be the work of a people who possessed advanced knowledge of stone construction tens of thousands of years ago, far earlier than previously believed? Or are these patterns the result of rare but explainable geological processes shaped over millennia by the interplay of water, tectonics, and erosion? Investigations have revealed additional mysteries. Marine life has colonized the terraces, obscuring some features and adding layers of complexity to analysis. Sediment buildup complicates dating, making it difficult to determine when the terraces first emerged. Diver photographs show features that suggest intentionality, yet underwater mapping also reveals irregularities and fractures that hint at natural formation. Some researchers propose that the site may be a hybrid, a natural formation modified by humans for practical, ceremonial, or symbolic purposes. This hypothesis reconciles the regularity with geological evidence, suggesting the structure could have been a natural canvas that humans enhanced to create functional spaces. The controversy surrounding Yonaguni also reflects larger questions about human prehistory. If the terraces were constructed or modified by humans, it implies the existence of a sophisticated culture at a time and place where archaeology currently finds little evidence. Could we be seeing traces of a lost civilization, one that existed before recorded history and left no written records? Or does the formation challenge assumptions about what constitutes architecture versus geology, revealing that nature alone can produce forms we instinctively interpret as human? The debate bridges geology, archaeology, and philosophy, forcing us to question how we define evidence and intention across deep time. Comparisons with other underwater sites intensify the fascination. The Caribbean, the Mediterranean, and even the waters near Yonaguni itself contain submerged settlements, often the result of post-Ice Age sea level rise. But the Yonaguni monument's scale and regularity set it apart. Its terraces are wider, steps taller, and its forms more angular than most natural underwater features. Some divers report the presence of precisely aligned linear ridges and massive stone blocks that seem arranged to create open plazas or ceremonial platforms. Could this imply planning and vision on a scale not previously attributed to prehistoric cultures? The Yonaguni monument invites reflection on the impermanence and fragility of human endeavor. Whether natural, human-modified, or a combination of both, the formation reminds us that landscapes and civilizations alike can vanish, leaving tantalizing fragments behind. Sunken beneath the waves, the terraces are preserved yet obscured, tangible but elusive, offering glimpses into processes or histories that challenge our understanding of time and culture. As divers glide over the steps and terraces, the shadows and light create a cinematic interplay, highlighting both order and ambiguity. Perhaps the most compelling aspect of Yonaguni is its unanswered questions. How much of the structure is original, how much altered by natural forces, and how much potentially shaped by human hands? What civilization, if any, could have undertaken such construction? And what knowledge, tools, or cultural imperatives drove them? Could this site represent a lost chapter in human history, submerged by post-glacial sea level rise? Or is it a testament to the ocean's capacity to sculpt monumental forms entirely on its own? The Yonaguni monument remains a profound enigma, suspended between nature and history, science and speculation. It challenges us to reconsider the boundaries between human achievement and natural artistry, between what is provable and what we can only imagine. As we peer down into the turquoise depths, following terraces that seem to stretch endlessly into mystery, we are reminded once more that history, geology, and human imagination often converge in places that resist easy explanation. The formation lies there, silent yet eloquent, asking the same questions it has for decades. What lies buried in the oceans of the past? What traces of human history have been lost beneath the waves? And what secrets might still be waiting just beyond the limits of our understanding? From the submerged terraces of Yonaguni, where stone meets sea and the boundary between human craft and natural formation blurs, our journey now leads to the wind-swept plains of Brittany, France. Here, amidst rolling green fields near the small town of Carnac, rise thousands of standing stones, arranged in vast, precise alignments that stretch for kilometers. Known collectively as the Carnac stones, these megaliths have fascinated scholars, astronomers, and travelers for centuries. Their scale is immediately striking. Rows of upright stones, some weighing tens of tons, extend across the landscape like a silent army, frozen in formation, their purpose cloaked in the mists of prehistory. Dating to between 4,500 and 3,300 BC, the Carnac complex predates the Egyptian pyramids and Stonehenge, yet it demonstrates a remarkable understanding of geometry, measurement, and spatial planning. Over 3,000 stones, or menhirs, are arranged in long rows, often oriented in strict linear sequences, interspersed with smaller dolmens and burial mounds. The sheer scale of the undertaking suggests not only immense labor and coordination, but also a shared cultural or religious purpose that guided thousands of people over generations. Yet, despite decades of study, the question remains: why were the stones aligned in this way, and what knowledge or intention informed their placement? Mainstream archaeological interpretations suggest that the Carnac stones served primarily ritual or ceremonial functions. Many scholars propose that they were markers of sacred spaces, connected to ancestor worship, seasonal cycles, or territorial claims. Excavations have revealed nearby burial sites, pottery fragments, and tools, providing clues about the people who erected the stones. Yet the alignments themselves, long, parallel rows stretching across the horizon, suggest a function beyond simple memorialization. Could they have served as an early form of astronomical observation, tracking the movements of the sun, moon, or stars? The astronomical hypothesis gains support from the orientation of certain rows. Some alignments correspond to solstices, equinoxes, or notable lunar events, implying that the builders possessed sophisticated knowledge of celestial cycles. Others suggest that the stones acted as calendrical markers, helping prehistoric people track time, predict seasons, or schedule agricultural and ritual activities. Yet, unlike Stonehenge, the Carnac complex lacks an apparent central axis or monument that clearly defines its purpose, leaving much to interpretation. Was the alignment functional, symbolic, or perhaps a combination of both? Speculative theories extend beyond conventional archaeology. Some researchers have proposed that the Carnac stones may encode astronomical information with greater complexity than previously imagined, perhaps serving as an early star map or observatory. Others have suggested ritualistic or mythological interpretations, imagining the rows as pathways connecting the earthly and spiritual realms, guiding processions or pilgrimages. Fringe hypotheses even entertain the possibility of lost knowledge or technologies, vestiges of a culture whose understanding of the cosmos exceeded what we might expect for the Neolithic period. While these ideas remain unproven, they underscore the enduring allure of the site, where evidence invites both reason and imagination. The construction of the Carnac stones presents its own set of mysteries. Moving and erecting massive stones without modern machinery would have required extraordinary coordination, planning, and ingenuity. Experimental archaeology demonstrates that teams using only simple tools, ropes, and wooden rollers could transport these monoliths, but the precision and scale achieved at Carnac remain extraordinary. How did a society of farmers and hunters mobilize the labor necessary to shape, transport, and erect thousands of stones? And what social structures enabled cooperation across generations, ensuring that the alignments remained consistent over time? The site's landscape adds another layer of intrigue. The rows follow subtle undulations of the terrain, sometimes bending gently, sometimes running straight for kilometers, as if responding to both natural contours and deliberate design. Dolmens and tumuli, interspersed among the menhirs, suggest that the site was not only a place of observation, but also a space of commemoration, linking celestial patterns with human cycles of life and death. How did the builders conceptualize space and scale, and how did they transmit this knowledge to ensure continuity over centuries? Carnac also reminds us of the fragility of human memory. Despite the stones' permanence, much of the culture that created them has vanished, leaving only these silent markers as testimony. Unlike written records, the stones convey meaning through orientation, placement, and scale, rather than text. Deciphering that meaning requires imagination informed by archaeology, astronomy, and anthropology. Yet even then, much is speculation. What rituals, beliefs, or observations inspired the builders? Did they see themselves as part of a larger cosmic order, mapping the heavens in stone for generations to follow? The visual impact of Carnac is profound. Standing among the rows of towering stones, one experiences a sense of order, rhythm, and scale that seems almost otherworldly. The alignment stretches toward the horizon, drawing the eye along invisible lines, evoking patterns of the sun, moon, and stars. Shadows shift across the stones with the changing light, creating a dynamic interplay that may have been integral to the builder's purpose. Could the menhirs have been designed to interact with light in specific ways, marking moments of celestial significance, or guiding observers through ritual pathways? Despite centuries of study, the Carnac stones retain their power to confound and inspire. Each row, each monolith, each alignment invites questions about human ingenuity, cultural continuity, and the relationship between the earth and sky. Were the stones a practical calendar, a sacred space, or a cosmic map? Or perhaps they were all of these things at once, reflecting a worldview that seamlessly integrated daily life, ritual, and observation of the heavens. The enduring mystery of Carnac lies not only in its construction or purpose, but in its capacity to connect us with people who lived thousands of years ago. The site is a reminder that even in prehistory, humans were capable of extraordinary vision, capable of translating observation, belief, and collective effort into monuments that endure far beyond a single lifetime. And yet, for all its permanence, Carnac remains enigmatic, leaving us to wonder what knowledge, ceremonies, or celestial secrets might have guided the builders, and what other aspects of their understanding, their culture, and their connection to the cosmos remain hidden, waiting for discovery, or perhaps forever lost to time. In standing among the stones, tracing the endless alignments across the fields of Brittany, one senses a dialogue between earth and sky, past and present. The Carnac stones are both monument and question, inviting us to reflect on the mysteries of human ingenuity and the secrets of the Neolithic mind. And as we contemplate the alignments, shadows, and geometry, the same profound question lingers. How much did the builders know? And how much of that knowledge has the millennia since quietly buried, leaving only stone as its enduring witness? From the rolling fields of Brittany, where the Carnac stones align with the cosmos and hint at ancient astronomical knowledge, our journey now carries us high into the Andes, to the windswept heights above the city of Cusco, Peru. Here lies a fortress unlike any other, Sacsayhuamán. Its massive stone walls rise in zigzagging terraces along the ridge, their enormous blocks fitted together with astonishing precision. Standing before these walls, one cannot help but feel a mixture of awe and perplexity. How did a civilization centuries before modern machinery manipulate stones weighing dozens of tons, shaping them to interlock with such exactitude that not even a knife blade can pass between many of the joints? Sacsayhuamán was built by the Inca during the 15th century, serving both as a military fortress and ceremonial center. Its enormous walls, composed of irregularly shaped boulders, are arranged in a pattern resembling a stepped zigzag or serpentine formation, giving the fortress a striking aesthetic while also providing defensive advantage. Some stones weigh more than 200 tons, yet the fit is so precise that they form stable walls without mortar. The geometry is remarkable. Edges meet at nearly perfect angles, surfaces are smooth and polished, and the arrangement absorbs seismic activity, allowing the structure to survive earthquakes that ravaged nearby Cusco. This combination of engineering skill, artistic vision, and practical functionality has made Sacsayhuamán a source of wonder for generations. Archaeologists generally agree that the construction techniques involved careful quarrying, shaping, and transportation of the stones from nearby sites. The Incas likely used a combination of stone hammers, chisels, ropes, ramps, and sheer human coordination. Yet the scale of the operation raises enduring questions. How did they transport stones weighing hundreds of tons across mountainous terrain? How did they achieve such precision in fitting irregularly shaped blocks without modern tools? And perhaps most strikingly, how did they design the structure to withstand centuries of earthquakes with almost no mortar? The precision of Sacsayhuamán has inspired a range of explanations and speculation. Some researchers point to the Incas' advanced understanding of stonework and trial and error methods, combined with meticulous planning and labor organization. Others suggest that they may have employed techniques now lost to history, methods that allowed them to manipulate enormous stones with accuracy approaching modern engineering standards. Could there have been specialized knowledge, handed down through generations, that enabled them to achieve what seems impossible even today? Speculative theories extend further. Some fringe ideas propose that Sacsayhuamán's stones were shaped using unknown tools or methods beyond conventional Inca technology, possibly aided by vibrating devices or other techniques lost to time. Others draw comparisons to other megalithic sites around the world, such as Baalbek in Lebanon, the pyramids of Egypt, or the submerged terraces of Yonaguni, wondering whether knowledge of precision stonework spread across ancient civilizations or arose independently in multiple regions. While these ideas remain unproven, they underscore the extraordinary nature of the site and its capacity to challenge conventional narratives about pre-Columbian engineering. Beyond the technical feats, Sacsayhuamán carries profound cultural and ceremonial significance. The fortress was the center of many Inca rituals, including the Inti Raymi, or Festival of the Sun, which continues to be celebrated near its terraces today. Its orientation, location, and design may have had astronomical or spiritual purposes, linking the earthly and the celestial. The zigzagging walls align with the rising and setting of the sun at solstices, hinting that the fortress was as much a statement of cosmic order as of human power. Could the Incas have deliberately integrated architecture, engineering, and cosmology in ways that are still only partially understood? The walls themselves offer subtle clues about construction methods and philosophy. Stones were carved to interlock in complex, irregular patterns, distributing weight evenly and creating remarkable stability. Each boulder appears custom-shaped for its place, as if the builders listened to the rock, letting the contours guide the fit. This technique, often called polygonal masonry, is found in other Inca sites, but reaches its zenith at Sacsayhuamán. It is a method that demonstrates both respect for natural form and the application of precise, intentional human skill. Questions remain about the organization of labor and the social structures that made such construction possible. Tens of thousands of workers may have been mobilized over decades to quarry, shape, transport, and assemble the stones. How was this coordinated in a society without written language in the conventional sense? What rituals, planning, and knowledge systems guided such a monumental effort? These questions remind us that Sacsayhuamán is not only a feat of engineering, but also a window into Inca society, revealing the scale of their organization, culture, and spiritual life. Even today, the fortress invites speculation about secrets lost to time. Could there have been tools, techniques, or knowledge now forgotten that allowed the Incas to achieve such precision? Did the builders encode symbolic or astronomical knowledge in the walls themselves, visible only to those trained to perceive it? And what does this tell us about the broader capabilities of ancient civilizations, whose achievements continue to challenge assumptions about the limits of human skill before the industrial era? Walking along the terraces, the viewer cannot help but feel the enormity of the effort, the intelligence, and the vision required to create such a site. Sunlight plays across the interlocking stones, highlighting their perfect fit and the subtle angles of each block. Shadows shift across the walls, accentuating the polygonal shapes, creating a dynamic, almost living landscape frozen in stone. It is a place where human ingenuity meets natural beauty, where architecture, art, and engineering converge in ways that continue to defy full explanation. Sacsayhuamán, like so many other mysteries we have encountered, reminds us of the fragility and endurance of human achievement. The fortress has survived earthquakes, colonization, and centuries of weathering, yet its origin, techniques, and symbolic meanings remain partially obscured. It is both monument and question, inviting reflection on what humans can accomplish with vision, coordination, and dedication, and what knowledge may still be hidden from our understanding. In contemplating the walls, terraces, and interlocking stones, we are confronted not only with the technical feats of the Incas, but with broader questions about the relationship between human ambition, natural materials, and the cosmos. How did the builders conceive of space, geometry, and stability? What knowledge guided the shaping and placement of each stone? And, perhaps most importantly, what remains hidden beneath the surface of history, waiting to be uncovered by curiosity, imagination, and careful study? Sacsayhuamán stands as a testament to human ingenuity, a challenge to our assumptions about pre-modern civilizations, and a reminder that even in an era we often think of as technologically primitive, humans were capable of extraordinary feats. Its stones speak silently, yet eloquently, inviting us to marvel, question, and wonder. And as the Andes winds sweep across the terraces, carrying echoes of a distant past, we are left with the enduring mystery. How much of the knowledge and technique that created Sacsayhuamán has been lost to time, and what secrets might these massive stones still hold for those who seek to understand them? From the sun-baked terraces of Sacsayhuamán, where massive stones interlock with astonishing precision and human ingenuity endures in the Andes, our journey now sweeps across the vast Pacific Ocean to one of the most remote islands on Earth, Rapa Nui, more commonly known as Easter Island. Here, in isolation, thousands of kilometers from any continental landmass, the island's volcanic hills rise dramatically from turquoise waters, dotted with stone statues, ceremonial platforms, and dense archaeological remains. Among its most mysterious relics, however, are not the iconic Moai statues, but an enigmatic written form known as Rongorongo, a script that seems to whisper secrets of a vanished world, yet defies every attempt at interpretation. The Rongorongo script appears on wooden tablets, staffs, and planks, each carved with rows of intricate glyphs depicting humans, animals, geometric shapes, and abstract motifs. Unlike alphabetic systems, Rongorongo flows in a continuous pattern, often written in reverse bostraphodon, alternating lines inverted and read in a zigzag pattern. This unusual orientation alone speaks to a complex conceptual framework, one that challenges our understanding of how knowledge and communication might have been encoded on this isolated island. Discovered in the 19th century by European explorers and missionaries, the tablets now number only about 26 surviving examples, fragments of what was likely once a broader corpus of writing. The dating of Rongorongo remains uncertain, but most scholars place its development sometime after 1200 AD, coinciding with the island's flourishing Moai building period. This timing raises compelling questions. Why would a society of limited population develop such a complex system of writing in relative isolation? What purposes did it serve? Ritual, calendrical, genealogical, or mnemonic? And, most intriguingly, how did this culture create a script so distinct from any other known writing system in the world? Mainstream interpretations suggest that Rongorongo may have been used primarily for ritualistic or ceremonial purposes. Some glyphs appear alongside ceremonial objects or are found on platforms used in religious observances, hinting that the inscriptions may have been recited or chanted, functioning as mnemonic devices for priests or elites. Others propose that the script recorded genealogies, astronomical data, or the oral traditions of the island's inhabitants, preserving cultural memory in a form more permanent than memory alone could provide. Yet, despite these plausible hypotheses, no universally accepted translation exists, leaving the tablets tantalizingly silent. The attempt to decipher Rongorongo has produced both progress and frustration. Early researchers tried to correlate the glyphs with Polynesian languages, using modern Rapa Nui as a reference. Others looked for numerical or calendrical patterns, hoping to uncover a system akin to quipu knots or star charts. While occasional patterns emerge, repetition of certain symbols, apparent groupings, and potential markers of names or dates, the overall meaning remains elusive. Unlike other ancient scripts, Rongorongo has no known bilingual counterpart, no Rosetta Stone to anchor interpretation, leaving researchers to rely on pattern recognition, intuition, and cross-cultural analogy. Speculative theories abound, reflecting the deep allure of the mystery. Some suggest that Rongorongo may encode knowledge lost when European contact brought disease, social disruption, and population decline to the island. Could it contain a lost history of the Moai, the rituals that guided their erection, or the movements of stars across the southern skies? Others entertain the possibility of external influence, contacts with other Polynesian or even transoceanic cultures that might have inspired the development of writing on the island. While these notions remain unproven, they illustrate the magnetic pull of Rongorongo, a puzzle that forces us to reconsider assumptions about literacy, cultural isolation, and the distribution of knowledge in pre-modern societies. The physicality of the tablets themselves adds to the intrigue. Carved into wood with obsidian or bone tools, the glyphs required steady hands, sharp instruments, and careful planning. Some tablets are remarkably well preserved, while others are fragmentary, suggesting both deliberate use and natural degradation in a humid, tropical environment. Each symbol appears intentional, carefully positioned, reflecting a cognitive and artistic sophistication that challenges the notion of an isolated, small population producing a complex writing system. How did the Rapa Nui people transmit the skill and knowledge to carve these symbols accurately and over generations? What training or cultural systems ensured continuity in this knowledge before the catastrophic disruptions of the 18th and 19th centuries? Rongorongo's very elusiveness compels reflection on the fragility of human knowledge. The island once supported a vibrant culture, capable of moving massive stones, constructing ceremonial platforms, and developing a script unique in the world. Yet so much of that culture was lost. Through environmental depletion, social upheaval, and colonial contact, that only fragments remain to hint at the depth of their understanding. Each tablet is not merely a relic, but a symbol of lost voices and the fragility of memory, offering glimpses of intellectual achievement that we may never fully recover. The landscape of Easter Island reinforces the mystery. The Moai gaze silently across the plains, and the volcanic ridges and coastal cliffs form natural boundaries that shaped settlement and ritual. Within this context, Rongorongo emerges as a bridge between human perception, environmental adaptation, and cultural expression. A coded message inscribed on a medium as impermanent as wood, yet enduring across centuries. How might the symbols relate to the movement of the stars, the agricultural cycles, or the spiritual beliefs of the Rapa Nui? And what did the creators hope to communicate to future generations, knowing that the island's isolation would render interpretation uncertain? Even today, Rongorongo invites both awe and humility. Researchers, linguists, and archaeologists can examine the shapes, analyze the patterns, and hypothesize about structure and function, yet the script resists definitive decoding. Each symbol, curve, and line embodies the thought processes of a people whose world was as rich and complex as our own, yet whose records are tantalizingly opaque. In that opacity lies its power, a reminder that not all knowledge survives intact, and that some aspects of human ingenuity may remain hidden, awaiting discovery or perhaps lost to time. Standing before a Rongorongo tablet, one senses the convergence of artistry, intellect, and mystery. The glyphs, small yet deliberate, are a meditation on human creativity, the desire to preserve culture, and the challenges of communicating across time and space. They invite us to ask questions that may never be fully answered. Who created these symbols, and why? What stories, knowledge, or rituals are encoded in their forms? And how much of the Rapa Nui world, with its moai, its rituals, and its vanished oral histories, remains just beyond our grasp, whispering through the grooves of carved wood? The Rongorongo script, like so many mysteries we have explored, from the precision stones of Sacsayhuamán to the astronomical alignments of Carnac, serves as a silent testament to human ingenuity, curiosity, and the limits of our understanding. It challenges us to reflect on what we know, what we assume, and what may lie hidden, waiting to be deciphered. And as the wind sweeps across Easter Island, carrying the echoes of a vanished culture, we are left with a lingering question. What secrets did Rongorongo preserve, and what stories of the past remain unread, just beyond the reach of our inquiry? From the windswept isolation of Easter Island, where the Rongorongo tablets whisper of a vanished culture and the mysteries of human communication persist, our journey now turns westward to the rugged cliffs and hidden recesses of North America's Grand Canyon, a region already celebrated for its staggering geological vistas and deep-time history. The canyon has also become the stage for one of the most controversial archaeological debates of the modern era: the claims surrounding Kincaid Cave, a site alleged to contain artifacts and evidence of ancient civilizations far earlier than previously documented in the Americas. The Kincaid Cave site is described as a deep, shadowed cavern tucked within the labyrinthine canyon walls. Its entrance, narrow and partially concealed, opens to a space that, according to reports, contains stone chambers, carved surfaces, and remnants suggestive of human activity. Some claim to have found tools, pottery shards, and even stone tablets etched with symbols reminiscent of Old World scripts. The images that have circulated of the site show massive stones arranged in what appear to be walls or partitions, giving the impression of deliberate construction. If verified, such features would represent a remarkable deviation from established timelines of habitation in the region, challenging conventional understanding of prehistoric North America. Mainstream archaeology, however, approaches Kincaid Cave with caution and, in many cases, skepticism. The majority of professional archaeologists have been unable to access the site for thorough investigation, and many of the artifacts remain unverified. Geological processes, natural erosion, and rockfall can create formations that mimic human construction and distinguishing natural phenomena from human intent. In such environments is extraordinarily challenging. Additionally, the provenance of artifacts reported from the cave is often disputed, with questions about chain of custody and authenticity clouding claims. Yet despite these uncertainties, the cave has sparked enduring intrigue and debate, drawing explorers, amateur researchers, and writers eager to uncover secrets hidden for millennia. Proponents of the Kincaid Cave claims point to the apparent precision of some stone arrangements, arguing that certain walls, terraces, or chambers show geometric regularity inconsistent with natural fracturing. Reports describe stones with flat faces stacked atop one another, narrow passageways suggesting intentional design, and carvings that resemble iconography found in Old World civilizations. Could this be evidence of transoceanic contact, early migration, or a forgotten culture indigenous to the region? The possibility is tantalizing, though as yet unproven, opening a spectrum of speculation as vast as the canyon itself. Speculative theories surrounding Kincaid Cave are diverse. Some propose that the site may represent an advanced prehistoric society, long erased by time and geological events, capable of sophisticated construction and symbolic expression. Others suggest connections to Old World cultures, citing similarities between reported carvings and ancient Mediterranean or Middle Eastern scripts, though evidence remains circumstantial. Fringe hypotheses even posit that the canyon's hidden chambers were ceremonial in nature, preserving religious or astronomical knowledge from civilizations unknown to history. While none of these ideas are conclusively verified, the reports and images have captivated the imagination of both scholars and the public, illustrating the canyon's enduring allure as a repository of mystery. The very nature of the Grand Canyon adds layers of both fascination and difficulty to the investigation. Its sheer cliffs, deep gorges, and labyrinthine passages create an environment where human exploration is perilous, and preservation conditions vary dramatically. Rockfall, flash floods, and shifting sediment obscure and destroy evidence, leaving traces fleeting and fragmentary. Could it be that Kincaid Cave, if it truly contains signs of ancient human activity, has been partially hidden or damaged by natural processes, leaving only tantalizing fragments to hint at a broader story? And if these remains do indeed reflect a pre-Columbian civilization unknown to conventional scholarship, how much of their knowledge and culture has been irrevocably lost? Reports from explorers describe striking features within the cave. Some chambers are said to be artificially smoothed or carved, with niches or indentations suggestive of shelving or storage. Others mention inscriptions or symbols, resembling abstract figures, lines, or glyphs, which seem incongruent with known North American iconography. Could these marks be ceremonial, symbolic, or practical? Or might they be coincidental formations, the result of erosion, mineral veins, or the human tendency to perceive patterns where none were intended? The uncertainty is central to the cave's intrigue, forcing observers to navigate between wonder and skepticism. Beyond physical evidence, Kincaid Cave raises profound questions about human migration and cultural diffusion. The Americas were populated tens of thousands of years ago, yet the timing, routes, and technological sophistication of early inhabitants remain subjects of ongoing research. Could the cave's alleged features indicate advanced knowledge or cross-continental connections that have left little trace elsewhere? Might isolated pockets of civilization have developed complex structures, religious practices, or symbolic systems in deep seclusion? These questions push the boundaries of archaeology, anthropology, and our understanding of human adaptability in extreme environments. The debate over Kincaid Cave also highlights the interplay between discovery, interpretation, and credibility. Much of what is known comes from photographs, personal accounts, and secondary reports, which must be critically examined for bias, exaggeration, or error. Yet the very act of investigation, exploring the cave, documenting anomalies, comparing geological and archaeological patterns, offers insight into the human desire to uncover lost knowledge, to trace lines of continuity across time, and to connect with the distant past in tangible ways. How do we evaluate evidence when context is limited and when nature itself conspires to obscure the past? Standing at the edge of the Grand Canyon, it is easy to feel the immensity of time pressing down, the layers of sediment recording millions of years of geological history. Within this vast stage, Kincaid Cave represents a tantalizing anomaly, a potential doorway into stories long obscured by rock and river. The possibility that it might contain traces of human ingenuity, ritual, or habitation from thousands of years ago evokes both awe and humility. We are reminded that history is not always neatly documented, that civilizations may rise and fall leaving only whispers behind, and that the canyon itself is both a repository and a barrier to understanding. Even if Kincaid Cave's claims remain unverified, the site invites reflection on the fragility of knowledge and the persistence of mystery. How many human achievements have been erased by time, natural disasters, or the simple passage of centuries? How do we distinguish the work of ancient hands from the shaping power of water, wind, and stone? And what might lie further within the canyon, beyond the reach of modern explorers, waiting to challenge assumptions about the past? The Grand Canyon, with its immense scale and geological complexity, mirrors the challenge of interpreting Kincaid Cave. The cave's potential significance, if it contains genuine artifacts or evidence of early civilization, demonstrates how human history is layered, often hidden beneath both natural and cultural sediment. It reminds us that our current understanding of prehistoric North America may be incomplete, and that mysteries persist where careful observation, curiosity, and daring exploration intersect. Kincaid Cave, whether ultimately proven to be a remarkable archaeological site or largely a natural curiosity, embodies the tension between known history and possibility. It is a reminder that even in regions long studied, anomalies can surface, prompting questions about what we know, what we assume, and what has been lost to time. As explorers navigate its shadowed passages, documenting stones, carvings, and formations, they engage in a dialogue with the past, a dialogue that challenges conventional narratives and invites us to wonder, what secrets does the Grand Canyon still hold, and how many human stories remain hidden, waiting for those willing to search in the depths? From the shadowed recesses of Kincaid Cave, hidden deep within the labyrinthine cliffs of the Grand Canyon, where claims of ancient civilizations challenge our understanding of North American prehistory, our journey now shifts thousands of miles across continents and deserts to the sun-scorched cliffs of the Judean Desert. Here, in a remote series of caves overlooking the Dead Sea, a discovery was made in the mid-20th century that would ignite imaginations and tantalize treasure hunters for decades. the Copper Scroll of Qumran. Unlike the more famous Dead Sea Scrolls, written on fragile parchment or papyrus, the Copper Scroll is forged from thin sheets of metal, inscribed with meticulous text that purports to list immense caches of hidden gold, silver, and artifacts, a list of riches long lost to history and possibly buried deep beneath the sands of ancient Palestine. The Copper Scroll, discovered in 1952 in Cave 3 near Qumran, is striking both for its material and its content. Unlike ordinary scrolls, its composition of copper alloy allowed it to survive intact for nearly 2 millennia, though the metal had corroded into fragile sheets over time. Its inscriptions are etched deeply, in a careful, uniform hand, listing locations and quantities of treasures hidden in cisterns, caves, and stone chambers. References include precise measurements, distances, and even identifiable landmarks. Yet the descriptions are enigmatic, and many of the sites mentioned are unidentifiable today. The scroll seems to bridge reality and imagination, recording both possible historical events and a narrative of wealth that has never been recovered. Dating the Copper Scroll remains an area of scholarly debate, but most researchers place it in the 1st century AD, a period of intense conflict in Palestine during the Roman occupation and the build-up to the Jewish revolt. Some scholars suggest that the treasures listed may have belonged to the Temple of Jerusalem, removed and hidden before the city's destruction in 70 AD. Others propose that the scroll reflects the wealth of Essene sects residing near Qumran, safeguarding sacred or communal treasures in anticipation of turbulent times. Yet, the audacity and scale of the list, thousands of talents of gold and silver, have led many to question whether the inventory is literal, symbolic, or exaggerated, a mixture of fact and allegory. What makes the Copper Scroll particularly mysterious is the precision of its instructions, coupled with the absence of verifiable finds. Researchers and treasure hunters have scoured caves, valleys, and desert canyons for the locations described, yet no substantial hoards have been uncovered. Some suggest that the scroll's landmarks have shifted over centuries. Rivers change course, valleys collapse, settlements vanish, and the desert slowly reclaims its territory. Could the treasures have been recovered in antiquity, or were they moved or destroyed long before modern exploration? Or is the scroll a coded allegory, its wealth symbolic rather than material, intended to convey spiritual or communal values rather than literal treasure? The nature of the scroll's text also poses challenges. Written in a dialect of Hebrew infused with technical terms for weights, measures, and geography, the inscriptions defy easy interpretation. Scholars have debated the meaning of particular phrases and distances, questioning whether measurements were intended as literal steps, cubits, or symbolic markers. Some suggest that cryptic language and possible errors may have been deliberate, to conceal exact locations from outsiders, preserving the treasures for a select few initiated in the knowledge of the sect. If so, the Copper Scroll becomes not just a list, but a key to a hidden system of knowledge, a map both literal and symbolic that intertwines geography, ritual, and secrecy. Speculative theories extend further. Some have proposed that the treasures described might include sacred objects, ritual vessels, or religious relics of great significance, lost during the destruction of the Second Temple. Others entertain the possibility of the scroll referencing hidden caches that predate the Roman era, linking the text to much older traditions of wealth concealment in Palestine. Fringe interpretations even suggest that the scroll could hold codes to esoteric knowledge, instructions to lost vaults, or even maps to locations far beyond the immediate region. While these ideas remain unverified, they underscore the enigmatic power of the Copper Scroll. It is at once tangible and elusive, concrete in metal yet ethereal in meaning. The Copper Scroll also provides insight into the mindset of its creators. The meticulous recording of distances, containers, and landmarks suggests a culture of extraordinary organization and foresight, concerned with preservation and secrecy in a time of political upheaval. Yet it also reflects a human fascination with wealth, security, and the desire to control resources in a world increasingly unstable. Could the scroll represent a practical inventory, a spiritual metaphor, or a combination of both, encoding the intersection of material, ritual, and esoteric concerns in one carefully inscribed artifact? The landscape around Qumran contributes to the enduring intrigue. Caves carved into limestone cliffs, often inaccessible without ropes or ladders, provide natural hiding places for both sacred texts and material treasures. Wind and water have eroded paths, shifted stones, and obscured landmarks, creating a dynamic environment in which treasures could be concealed yet remain out of reach for centuries. This interplay of human intention and natural forces raises further questions. If the treasures existed, how did the scroll's creators ensure their preservation? And if the scroll is allegorical, how does its geographic specificity serve its purpose? Does it anchor spiritual or communal ideals in a concrete landscape, connecting the people to place and history? Despite decades of research and exploration, the Copper Scroll continues to resist resolution. Archaeologists, historians, and adventurers alike have examined the text, compared measurements, and surveyed the terrain, yet the promised treasures remain elusive. The scroll's survival, however, attests to a remarkable confluence of human ingenuity, metallurgical skill, and literary precision. The very act of inscribing text on copper, enduring for millennia while recording instructions that may have guided actions lost to time, demonstrates a culture deeply invested in preservation, secrecy, and transmission of knowledge across generations. The Copper Scroll thus embodies both promise and mystery. It offers a tantalizing glimpse into a world of wealth, ritual, and organizational sophistication, yet it denies certainty, leaving modern observers in a liminal space between hope and doubt. It reminds us that human history is layered, often fragmentary, and that extraordinary artifacts can survive even when their full meaning has been obscured. Could the treasures still exist somewhere, hidden beneath desert sands and centuries of silence? Or is the scroll a record of human aspiration, imagination, and meticulous record-keeping, never intended to yield its secrets in literal form? Standing in the Judean desert, imagining the careful hands that hammered letters into copper, tracing the long-lost pathways and hiding places, one senses the profound interplay of human ambition, devotion, and ingenuity. The Copper Scroll is more than a document. It is a testament to the desire to safeguard knowledge and wealth in a precarious world. It challenges us to consider not only the reality of what may lie buried, but the ways in which human cultures conceive of value, security, and continuity. And as the desert wind stirs the sands below the cliffs of Qumran, we are left with a lingering question. What secrets did the Copper Scroll preserve? And how much of that hidden world remains beyond our reach, waiting for discovery or perhaps lost forever? From the arid cliffs and hidden caves of Qumran, where the Copper Scroll whispers of unimaginable treasures and secrets lost to time, our journey now travels southward along the Pacific coastline to the high desert plains of Ica, Peru. Here, among the windswept sands and red-hued hills, a collection of carved stones emerged in the mid-20th century that would ignite global fascination and controversy. The Ica stones. At first glance, they appear as ordinary fragments of igneous rock, yet each bears intricate engraved images depicting scenes that challenge conventional understanding of pre-Columbian history. Dinosaurs roam across their surfaces. Humans interact with them, performing surgery and wielding advanced technology. The very existence of these stones raises questions that straddle the boundary between archaeology, skepticism, and the limits of imagination. The Ica stones came to public attention in the 1960s, primarily through the efforts of Dr. Javier Cabrera, a physician and collector who amassed thousands of these engraved rocks from local farmers. Each stone varies in size, some small enough to hold in a hand, others large slabs that require careful handling. The carvings are surprisingly detailed, depictions of complex surgical procedures, human figures interacting with extinct animals, astronomical symbols, and even apparent maps of the Earth. The craftsmanship is meticulous, with precise lines and careful shading that suggest careful attention and considerable skill. For enthusiasts, the stones offer tantalizing evidence of knowledge that predates modern understanding. For critics, they represent a perplexing and controversial puzzle. Mainstream archaeology generally views the Ica stones with skepticism, primarily because the context of their discovery is uncertain and the methods of collection lack rigorous documentation. Many of the stones were obtained from local farmers who admitted, at least in some cases, to carving replicas for sale to collectors and tourists. This has led scholars to question their authenticity, citing inconsistencies in style, historical plausibility, and anachronistic content. Humans depicted alongside dinosaurs, advanced surgical instruments long before their known development, and technology beyond the capabilities of ancient civilizations. Yet, the sheer volume of stones, tens of thousands, and the variety of imagery have kept the debate alive, as they present a persistent anomaly that is difficult to dismiss entirely. The Ica stones engravings depict a wide range of subjects. Some show people performing craniotomies, setting broken bones, or conducting procedures resembling modern surgery. Others feature humans coexisting with pterosaurs and various dinosaurs, sometimes riding or interacting with them in ways that defy established paleontological timelines. Still others present astronomical diagrams, maps, and symbolic representations whose meaning remains enigmatic. If authentic, the stones suggest a level of observational knowledge and technical skill that would dramatically revise our understanding of ancient human capabilities. How could a society without modern tools depict such creatures with anatomical accuracy? Were these depictions based on myths, oral traditions, or observations now lost to history? Speculative theories about the stones range from extraordinary to improbable. Some enthusiasts propose that the stones record knowledge from a vanished advanced civilization, perhaps connected to the lost cultures that built monumental structures across Peru, such as Sacsayhuamán or the Nazca Lines. Others suggest that they may preserve memories of encounters with unknown creatures or distant lands, encoded in symbolic language. Fringe interpretations extend to hypotheses of prehistoric time travel, extraterrestrial contact, or genetic memory preserved in art, though such ideas remain firmly outside mainstream scholarship. Each interpretation, however, underscores the allure of the stones. They provoke curiosity, challenge assumptions, and compel observers to consider possibilities beyond conventional timelines. Despite the controversies, the Ica stones offer insight into human creativity, cultural imagination, and the ways in which societies encode knowledge. Whether authentic relics of an ancient civilization or modern forgeries inspired by imagination and local tradition, they reflect a remarkable interplay of artistic skill, symbolic thinking, and storytelling. Each engraved scene, whether literal or allegorical, demands interpretation, inviting viewers to engage with the mysteries of human cognition, memory, and expression across time. The stones prompt reflection on how humans perceive the past, reconstruct narratives, and project meaning onto objects whose origins may be partially obscured. The environment of Ica itself adds a compelling layer to the story. The desert landscape, with its rolling sand dunes, rocky outcrops, and dry riverbeds, has preserved other ancient artifacts and geoglyphs for centuries. The proximity to Nazca and Paracas, regions renowned for their enigmatic lines, pottery, and mummies, situates the stones within a broader archaeological context that underscores the sophistication of Andean civilizations. Could the stones be part of a larger cultural tradition, linking symbolic knowledge, observation of the natural world, and ritual practice? Or do they represent isolated expressions, anomalies created in response to social, economic, or cultural pressures in more recent history? The controversy itself offers insight into the dynamics of discovery, authenticity, and belief. Skeptics emphasize that without controlled excavation and documented provenance, claims of ancient origin remain unproven. Advocates argue that stylistic consistency, anatomical accuracy, and sheer numbers suggest that the stones cannot be dismissed outright. The debate highlights broader questions in archaeology. How do we distinguish genuine artifacts from imitation? How do cultural biases influence interpretation? And how should the scientific community respond when evidence exists in forms that challenge conventional narratives? The Ica stones also raise philosophical questions about knowledge, evidence, and wonder. Whether authentic or fabricated, they embody humanity's fascination with the unknown, the lost, and the extraordinary. They compel us to imagine a world in which humans might have possessed knowledge now forgotten, or in which storytelling and representation could convey truths that literal records cannot. Could the stones be allegorical, encoding lessons about survival, technology, and coexistence with nature? Or are they the products of imagination and artistic play, demonstrating the human capacity to create meaning and mystery in tangible form? Walking through the desert landscapes of Ica, it is easy to sense the intersection of history, geology, and human creativity. Each stone, whether held in a hand or carefully placed on a shelf, carries an echo of inquiry, skill, and curiosity. They ask us to consider the limits of what we know and to reflect on the gaps in human history. What does it mean for a culture to leave records whose interpretation is uncertain? How much of the past is accessible to us, and how much remains encoded in materials, symbols, or art that we have yet to decipher? The Ica stones, like the copper scroll of Qumran or the Kincaid cave claims in the Grand Canyon, occupy a space between possibility and mystery. They challenge assumptions, provoke investigation, and invite contemplation of human ingenuity across time. Whether they are authentic relics of an ancient, advanced culture, symbolic creations of imaginative artisans, or a combination of both, their existence encourages us to look beyond conventional explanations, to consider the ways knowledge, art, and culture intersect, and to reflect on what may still be hidden beneath desert sands, waiting to be discovered. In contemplating the Ica stones, we are reminded of the delicate interplay between evidence and interpretation, between imagination and fact. Each engraving, whether literal, allegorical, or fabricated, invites reflection on what humans value, what they remember, and how they communicate knowledge across generations. And as the desert sun glints across the red hills of Ica, illuminating stones whose meaning remains uncertain, we are left with a profound question. What truths about our past, our capabilities, and the stories we tell remain hidden, waiting for those patient enough to seek them and curious enough to wonder what lies beneath the surface? From the windswept deserts of Ica, where stones carved with improbable imagery challenge our understanding of pre-Columbian cultures, our journey now carries us far north, across oceans and latitudes, to a land of ice, fjords, and shadowed glaciers. Greenland, a place where the Arctic wind howls through jagged cliffs and icy fjords. It was here that Norse settlers ventured over 1,000 years ago, establishing colonies at the edges of the known world. They arrived from Iceland around the late 10th century, driven by exploration, opportunity, and perhaps the enduring human impulse to push boundaries. Yet these settlements, thriving for centuries in an unforgiving landscape, eventually vanished, leaving behind ruins, scattered artifacts, and a mystery that has persisted through centuries. What became of the Norse in Greenland? The Norse colonies, referred to in medieval records as the Eastern Settlement and the Western Settlement, were remarkable achievements of adaptation and resilience. They constructed turf and stone houses, farmed livestock in a challenging environment, and traded walrus ivory, furs, and other commodities with Europe. Archaeological evidence points to a network of farms, churches, and small communities stretching along fjords and valleys where the ice had retreated just enough to allow grazing and agriculture. Livestock bones, iron tools, and remnants of dwellings provide tangible proof of a thriving society. Yet even amid this evidence of human ingenuity, the story of the Norse in Greenland is shadowed by questions. Why did these settlements disappear? What pressures, environmental, social, or otherwise, led to the complete abandonment of communities that once seemed so resilient? Environmental evidence provides some clues, though it deepens rather than resolves the mystery. Paleoclimatic studies indicate that the Greenland settlements endured during a period of relative warmth known as the medieval climate anomaly, which allowed for marginal farming at high latitudes. But as the climate shifted into the colder conditions of the Little Ice Age, harsher winters and advancing glaciers would have made agriculture more difficult, livestock more vulnerable, and sea travel more perilous. Crops that had once sustained the communities began failing, and access to trade routes, essential for imported iron, timber, and luxury goods, was increasingly limited. Could climate alone explain the disappearance? Or did human choices, isolation, and societal dynamics amplify the risks, hastening their decline? Mainstream archaeological explanations suggest that a combination of environmental stress, declining trade, and cultural inflexibility contributed to the collapse. The Norse, reliant on European diets and practices, may have struggled to adapt fully to the changing Greenlandic environment. Evidence of nutritional stress, such as reduced bone density in skeletal remains, supports the idea of a population under duress. Yet even as some settlements dwindled, the islands were not uninhabited. Inuit communities, highly adapted to the Arctic environment, thrived in the same regions. This raises questions about resilience, adaptation, and the complex interplay between culture and environment. Why did one population falter while another prospered? What strategies did the Norse attempt, and how did those strategies succeed or fail? Speculative theories have emerged alongside the conventional narrative, expanding the mystery. Some suggest conflict, either internal social strife or confrontations with Inuit groups, may have played a role in the colony's decline. Others propose disease, possibly introduced from Europe, or the collapse of trade networks due to political instability abroad, which would have left the Greenland settlements isolated and vulnerable. Fringe ideas speculate on sudden catastrophes, volcanic activity, tsunamis, or even extraterrestrial influence. But the evidence remains elusive. The truth likely lies somewhere between these extremes, a convergence of pressures that slowly eroded the Norse foothold at the edge of the known world. The archaeological record offers tantalizing glimpses of daily life in these remote settlements. Excavations reveal homes constructed from turf blocks with stone foundations, often grouped around central halls or churches. Middens show evidence of livestock husbandry, including cattle, sheep, and goats, and occasional marine resources from fjords and inlets. Iron tools, whalebone artifacts, and imported ceramics suggest both self-sufficiency and a connection to wider European trade networks. Yet the ruins also hint at stress and adaptation. Abandoned farms, reused stones, and modifications to dwellings indicate attempts to endure worsening conditions. Each piece of evidence is a window into survival, ingenuity, and the vulnerability of human societies confronting environmental limits. The human stories of Greenland's Norse remain tantalizingly fragmentary. Medieval sagas, sparse annals, and oral traditions recount voyages, hardships, and mysterious disappearances. Some texts suggest migration attempts southward, journeys back to Iceland or Europe, or even integration with indigenous populations, though no definitive evidence supports these claims. The absence of written records within Greenland itself compounds the mystery. The settlers left few documents, and the fragile materials of everyday life, wood, parchment, and textiles, have largely decayed in the harsh Arctic climate. What might personal letters, religious texts, or trade ledgers have revealed about the final decades of the settlements? How did individuals experience hunger, isolation, and cultural displacement? Geography itself adds layers to the enigma. Greenland's fjords create natural corridors and barriers, isolating communities and shaping trade and communication. Winter ice makes travel treacherous, and even summer navigation along the coasts is fraught with hidden reefs and shifting icebergs. How did the Norse sustain contact with Iceland, maintain supply lines, or seek refuge during severe winters? The landscape that provided some protection and opportunity also imposed profound limitations, shaping the decisions, successes, and ultimate vulnerability of the settlers. The disappearance of the Greenlandic Norse has implications beyond archaeology, prompting reflection on human resilience, adaptation, and the fragility of civilization. They serve as a reminder that survival is never guaranteed, even for societies with knowledge, skill, and resources. Environmental shifts, social structures, and cultural rigidity can converge to threaten entire communities, leaving only ruins and fragments as testimony. The Norse settlements also provoke philosophical questions about legacy and memory. How do civilizations vanish from record? And what traces of their knowledge and experience survive in artifacts, place names, or oral memory? Modern research continues to illuminate aspects of this mystery. DNA analysis, climate reconstruction, and renewed archaeological surveys reveal subtle patterns of adaptation, dietary shifts, and resource management. Yet each new discovery also raises further questions. Did the last inhabitants leave voluntarily, seeking better conditions elsewhere, or did some perish in the unforgiving Arctic winters? Could some remnants have integrated with later populations, leaving genetic or cultural echoes undetected? Or does the true fate of Greenland's Norse remain forever obscured by ice, time, and the absence of contemporary accounts? Standing on the cliffs above fjords once populated by Norse farms, one can imagine the frozen seas, the windswept valleys, and the human determination to carve out life in a remote and unforgiving environment. The ruins, weathered turf houses, collapsed walls, and scattered artifacts, invite reflection on endurance, ingenuity, and the limits imposed by nature. Each abandoned site, each fragment of iron or bone, is a testament to human ambition and a reminder that even the most industrious societies can be vulnerable to forces beyond their control. The lost Norse colonies of Greenland, like the Ica stones, the Copper Scroll, or Kincaid Cave, occupy a space between evidence and imagination. They challenge us to consider what humans are capable of when confronted with extreme environments, how culture mediates adaptation, and what happens when knowledge, resources, and climate converge against a community. They compel us to reflect on the stories of those who lived, worked, and disappeared in these frozen landscapes, and to ask questions that may never be fully answered. In contemplating these vanished settlements, we are reminded that history is not a linear record, but a tapestry of survival, innovation, and loss. Greenland's Norse offer a cautionary tale, a meditation on the interplay between environment, culture, and human ambition. And as the Arctic winds sweep over fjords and glacial valleys, echoing through abandoned farmsteads and crumbling turf walls, we are left with a profound, lingering question. What became of the people who ventured to the edge of the known world, and what truths about resilience, adaptation, and human endeavor remain buried beneath the ice, waiting for those willing to seek them? From the frozen fjords of Greenland, where Norse settlers once braved the limits of human endurance and left behind ruins that continue to puzzle archaeologists, our journey now returns southward to the humid, dense jungles of Ecuador. Here, deep within the eastern Andean foothills, lies a cavern system so vast and enigmatic that it has captivated explorers, adventurers, and scholars alike for decades. The Taos Caves. Known locally for their steep, rocky entrances and labyrinthine tunnels, these caves stretch for miles beneath the tropical forest, their interior passages echoing with water drips, subterranean streams, and the whispers of history. It is here that rumors of extraordinary artifacts, golden objects, inscribed metals, and relics of a lost civilization have sparked fascination and controversy. The Taos Caves were first brought to global attention in the mid-20th century, when local indigenous groups told of strange metallic objects and subterranean chambers containing evidence of a long-lost culture. In 1976, an expedition led by Hungarian explorer József P. Szabó, later famously joined by science fiction writer Erich von Däniken and naturalist Neil Armstrong, set out to document and explore these claims. Photographs, sketches, and first-hand accounts describe a labyrinth of tunnels, some only accessible via vertical shafts, lined with formations that appeared almost architectural in their regularity. Among the most sensational reports were descriptions of metal artifacts, plates, figurines, and objects resembling tools, sometimes bearing markings or inscriptions that did not correspond to known scripts. While mainstream archaeology remains skeptical, the allure of the Taos Caves is undeniable. The natural formations themselves, limestone walls, stalactites, and subterranean chambers, can create the illusion of deliberate construction. Yet, explorers and local guides recount phenomena that seem to defy purely geological explanation. Smooth, regular walls, niches that resemble storage areas, and piles of stones arranged in apparent patterns. Could these features be the work of human hands, remnants of an ancient, forgotten civilization? Or are they natural curiosities that the mind interprets as intentional, shaped by expectation and legend? The ambiguity is central to the cave's enduring fascination. The rumors surrounding the artifacts are as diverse as they are extraordinary. Some claim the caves contain golden plates, inscribed with knowledge of the cosmos, history, or advanced technology. Others suggest the objects include ceremonial tools, religious relics, or even maps of the earth in miniature. There are tales of vast underground chambers, accessible only by narrow shafts, holding treasures untouched for millennia. Explorers who have entered the caves describe navigating submerged tunnels and low passages, often relying on indigenous guides for knowledge of safe routes. The combination of danger, isolation, and potential discovery has made Taos both a site of adventure and speculation, blurring the lines between fact and legend. Skeptics argue that the artifacts are exaggerated or entirely fabricated, citing the lack of physical evidence verified under controlled scientific conditions. Many of the most sensational reports come from anecdotal accounts or secondary sources, and no comprehensive archaeological excavation has conclusively documented the existence of golden or inscribed objects. Local farmers and guides, eager to attract attention or earn income from explorers, may have contributed to the spread of embellished stories. Yet the caves themselves undeniably exist, and their size and complexity are remarkable. Even if the treasures are more myth than reality, the human interaction with these spaces, the exploration, storytelling, and speculation, is itself a form of cultural archaeology, reflecting both imagination and desire to connect with the past. Some researchers propose that the artifacts, if they exist, might belong to an ancient culture now largely forgotten, perhaps predating or coexisting with the Inca civilization. Ecuador and the surrounding Andean regions were home to diverse societies with impressive knowledge of metallurgy, astronomy, and ritual practice. Could the Taos caves have served as ceremonial centers, storage vaults, or refuges for sacred objects during times of conflict or upheaval? If so, the combination of natural protection and subterranean concealment would make them ideal for preserving treasures, explaining why none have surfaced in the open. Other, more speculative interpretations suggest that the caves and artifacts could represent knowledge passed down from unknown or even advanced civilizations. Proponents of fringe theories speculate on connections with lost continents, ancient astronauts, or civilizations with technologies lost to time. While such ideas lie outside mainstream scholarship, they underscore the narrative power of Taos. The human mind is drawn to mysteries that suggest hidden history, knowledge withheld, or civilizations erased by the passage of centuries. In this sense, the caves act as a mirror, reflecting both the physical landscape and the psychological landscape of curiosity, wonder, and longing for discovery. The physical challenges of exploring Taos reinforce its mystique. Vertical shafts, narrow passages, subterranean streams, and total darkness make navigation difficult, even for experienced spelunkers. Every expedition requires careful preparation, rope systems, and guidance from those familiar with the cave's labyrinthine layout. The combination of physical danger and remote location ensures that few can fully explore the system, leaving much of it unexamined. Could it be that undiscovered chambers lie beyond collapsed tunnels, still containing artifacts, carvings, or signs of human habitation? Or has time, erosion, and flooding already erased any evidence that might have existed? The intersection of myth, memory, and exploration is central to Taos' allure. Indigenous accounts, colonial records, and modern reports intertwine, creating a layered narrative that defies simple categorization. Each story, whether told by a local guide or recorded in a scientific journal, contributes to the overall mystery, even as it raises questions about authenticity, interpretation, and the role of human imagination in shaping history. How much of what we know is observation, and how much is projection? And can we separate truth from legend when the physical evidence is incomplete or inaccessible? Some advocates argue that careful archaeological investigation, combined with modern technology such as ground-penetrating radar and 3D mapping, could reveal hidden chambers and validate or debunk the existence of extraordinary artifacts. Yet, decades of partial exploration have yielded tantalizing hints without definitive proof. The caves seem to resist full documentation, preserving a tension between human curiosity and the natural world. Each expedition uncovers more passages, yet each discovery often raises more questions than it answers. The Taos caves also offer a meditation on the human desire to find lost knowledge. They are a space where imagination meets observation, where natural formations are interpreted as evidence of human ingenuity, and where rumors inspire both hope and skepticism. Even if golden artifacts or inscribed objects never existed, the stories themselves reflect cultural memory and aspiration, the hope that history can reveal secrets long hidden beneath stone and soil. The caves embody a liminal space, both real and symbolic, bridging tangible geography and intangible mystery. Walking through the narrow corridors, feeling the chill of the underground air, hearing the drip of water echo off stone walls, one cannot help but feel a connection to those who might have first entered these spaces, whether ancient inhabitants, explorers, or storytellers. The physical experience mirrors the intellectual one, navigating the unknown, interpreting signs, and confronting the limits of certainty. Could the caves have been sacred, their treasures metaphorical rather than literal? Or do they truly conceal evidence of civilizations whose knowledge and skill have been lost to time? Like the Norse settlements in Greenland or the Ica stones of Peru, Taos challenges our assumptions about history, archaeology, and human capability. It reminds us that much of the past is inaccessible, that mysteries persist in the shadows, and that human ingenuity, curiosity, and storytelling are as much a part of history as the physical remnants of civilizations. Whether the Taos artifacts exist or not, the caves stand as a monument to mystery, inviting exploration, contemplation, and reflection on what may still be hidden beneath layers of rock, jungle, and legend. In contemplating the Taos caves, one is struck by the interplay of environment, culture, and imagination. They exemplify the tension between possibility and verification, between legend and evidence, and between the human desire for discovery and the limitations imposed by nature and time. And as explorers descend into darkened tunnels, their lanterns casting flickering shadows on walls that may have been shaped by water, rock, or human hands, we are left with an enduring question. What lies hidden in the depths of Taos? And how much of human history, knowledge, and ambition remains concealed, waiting for those bold enough to search, bold enough? From the humid jungles of Ecuador, where the Taos caves whisper of hidden chambers, enigmatic artifacts, and the boundary between legend and reality, our journey now sweeps northeast across continents to the wind-swept plateaus and snow-capped peaks of the Altai Mountains in Siberia. Here, at the remote edges of what was once a vast network of Eurasian steppes, a frozen tomb was uncovered in the 1990s that would captivate the world. The burial of the so-called Siberian princess of the Ukok Plateau. Encased in permafrost and remarkably preserved for over 2 millennia, this mummified woman offers a window into the Pazyryk culture, a nomadic society whose sophistication, artistry, and ritual practices continue to intrigue scholars. Yet it is her body's elaborate tattoos, painted with striking precision and symbolic complexity, that have ignited both fascination and mystery. The Ukok princess was discovered in a kurgan, a burial mound typical of Scythian and Pazyryk funerary traditions. Her tomb, meticulously constructed, contained grave goods of extraordinary craftsmanship, elaborately carved wooden chests, intricately decorated felt clothing, silk garments imported from distant regions, and sacrificial horses arranged in ceremonial alignment. The permafrost preserved not only the flesh and clothing, but also the intricate tattoos that adorn her arms, shoulders, back, and legs. Artwork so vivid and detailed that it appears almost three-dimensional. Each tattoo depicts fantastical animals, stags, leopards, mythical hybrids, intertwined in flowing compositions that seem to tell stories of power, protection, and spiritual belief. The level of artistry is astonishing. The pigments, absorbed directly into the skin, have survived millennia of decay due to the unique preservation conditions of the Siberian permafrost. The images themselves combine natural observation with symbolic abstraction. Leopards and deer rendered with anatomical precision, yet arranged in patterns and postures that suggest ritual significance. Scholars suggest these tattoos were not merely decorative, but functioned as markers of status, identity, and perhaps spiritual protection. Yet despite careful study, many aspects remain enigmatic. What exact meanings did these images hold? How were they created with such precision without modern tools? And what cultural narratives guided their design? Mainstream scholarship situates the Ukok princess within the Pazyryk culture, which thrived in the Altai region between roughly the 5th and 3rd centuries BC. This nomadic society is known for elaborate burial practices, exquisite craftsmanship in textiles, wood, and metalwork, and a deep symbolic relationship with animals and the natural world. Tattoos, therefore, may have been an extension of broader cultural practices, reflecting religious beliefs, social hierarchy, or mythological storytelling. Yet, the precision, scale, and preservation of these designs are exceptional even within this context. How did artisans achieve such detailed imagery on human skin? And how did the tattoos communicate meaning to those within and outside her society? Speculative theories have expanded the mystery. Some propose that the Ukok princess may have held a priestly or shamanic role, with tattoos functioning as visual guides to spiritual journeys or as talismans for protection in both life and the afterlife. Others suggest that her body served as a ritual canvas, a living map of myth, cosmology, or ancestral memory. Fringe interpretations venture further, proposing lost knowledge of ancient medicine, astronomy, or even supernatural insight encoded in her tattoos. While these claims remain unverified, they underscore the cultural and intellectual fascination that the princess continues to inspire. The burial itself adds further intrigue. The kurgan contained not only her body, but also the remains of sacrificed horses, ornate weaponry, and textiles imported from distant regions, indicating that the Pazyryk were part of extensive trade and cultural networks. This raises questions about the princess's social position. Was she royalty, a shaman, or a symbolic figure representing the clan's spiritual or political identity? Her remarkably preserved face, which shows traces of high status and careful embalming, suggests she was revered in life and death, but the precise nature of her power remains a matter of conjecture. The tattoo's symbolism also reflects a deep engagement with the natural and spiritual world. Animal motifs are a common thread in Pazyryk and Scythian art, yet the Ukok princess's designs are distinguished by their complexity and scale. Stylized leopards curl across her limbs in dynamic poses. Mythical hybrid creatures combine feline, avian, and serpentine features. Stag antlers weave into abstract geometric forms. Each image may encode myth, identity, or protective symbolism. Did these motifs convey clan affiliation, victories in battle, or spiritual guidance? Or were they intended to ensure her safe passage into the afterlife, where animals often functioned as guides or guardians in nomadic belief systems? The frozen plateau itself amplifies the sense of mystery. Isolated at over 2,000 meters in altitude, the Ukok Plateau is a harsh, wind-swept environment where snow, ice, and rocky terrain dominate the landscape. It is precisely this environment that preserved her body and tattoos so exquisitely, yet it also isolates the site, complicating archaeological study and leaving vast areas unexplored. Could other tombs, artifacts, or evidence of the Pazyryk culture lie hidden beneath the permafrost, waiting to reveal further insights into this enigmatic society? How much of their world has been lost to ice, erosion, and time? The study of the princess's tattoos has broader implications for understanding human expression and cultural identity. They provide rare evidence of the intersection of art, ritual, and personal embodiment in a society without written language. Unlike artifacts housed in tombs or settlements, her tattoos were permanently inscribed on flesh, accessible only to those who saw her in life and preserved immutably through death and preservation. What can this tell us about the ways humans communicate status, belief, and myth through the body? And how do these visual codes compare to the written or oral records of neighboring or contemporary societies? Modern research continues to reveal nuances about the Ukok princess. CT scans, DNA analysis, and isotopic studies suggest she may have traveled across the region, consuming diverse foods and participating in complex trade networks. The pigments used in her tattoos have been chemically analyzed, showing remarkable longevity and stability. Yet each discovery only deepens the mystery. How did nomadic artisans achieve such technical mastery without permanent studios or advanced tools? Did the tattoos influence her role in society, her spirituality, or her community's perception of her? And perhaps most intriguingly, What do these designs tell us about a worldview so distant in both time and culture that we struggle to fully interpret it today? The legacy of the Ukok princess is also entwined with modern politics, indigenous identity, and debates over cultural heritage. Her body was removed from the plateau and stored in museums, provoking tension with local Altai communities who view the burial as sacred. The intersection of archaeology, nationalism, and indigenous belief highlights the ongoing relevance of her story. She is not merely a relic of the past, but a living symbol of the human connection to ancestry, landscape, and cultural memory. How should we balance scientific investigation with respect for communities who regard these discoveries as spiritually significant? And how does this tension shape the narratives we construct about her life and death? The Siberian princess, like the Taos caves, the lost Norse settlements, and the Ica stones, occupies a liminal space between tangible evidence and enduring mystery. Her tattoos, frozen in time, serve as both a record and a question. A record of extraordinary artistry, societal complexity, and cultural symbolism. A question about identity, purpose, and the messages encoded in flesh. They invite reflection on what humans choose to leave behind, how societies immortalize belief and status, and how much of history remains hidden, waiting for patient observation and thoughtful interpretation. As we contemplate the Ukok princess lying in her permafrost tomb, surrounded by animals, symbolic designs, and artifacts of her society, we are reminded that history is not merely a collection of dates, objects, or texts. It is also the human impulse to express, signify, and preserve meaning. Her tattoos ask us to consider how art, ritual, and identity intersect, how meaning can survive across millennia, and how much of our understanding of human ingenuity is still buried beneath ice, soil, and legend. The Siberian princess of Ukok, her body and her tattoos preserved against time and nature, challenges us to look deeper, to wonder, and to acknowledge the mysteries that remain unsolved. What messages did she carry into death? What stories were told by her images, and how much of her world has been irretrievably lost? And perhaps most profoundly, what does her preserved body teach us about the universality of human creativity, expression, and the desire to leave a mark upon the world, even in the remotest, harshest corners of the earth? From the frozen permafrost of Siberia, where the Ukok princess lay immortalized in her tattoos and artifacts, we now journey thousands of kilometers southward across the equator to the lush volcanic highlands of western Java, Indonesia. There, atop a rugged hill cloaked in dense forest and mist, lies Gunung Padang, an enigmatic site whose terraces, stone formations, and layered earth have stirred intrigue, debate, and controversy for decades. At first glance, it appears as a natural volcanic hill, but closer inspection reveals terraces of large volcanic stones, some stacked with precision, creating flat surfaces and stepped levels. Could this be a monumental construction, a pyramid hidden in plain sight, older than conventional history allows? Or is it merely the product of human modification atop a naturally occurring formation? Gunung Padang first drew academic attention in the early 20th century, when local villagers guided archaeologists to unusual stone arrangements atop the hill. Subsequent surveys and excavations revealed multiple terraces, stone alignments, and rectangular megalithic blocks, some weighing several tons, forming structures that defy simple explanation. Radiocarbon dating of charcoal and organic material from soil layers suggested dates ranging from around 2500 BC for the upper terraces to claims, controversial and debated, of occupation as early as 9000 BC in lower, deeper layers. If verified, such antiquity would position Gunung Padang as one of the oldest monumental constructions in the world, predating many known civilizations. Mainstream archaeologists argue that Gunung Padang was built gradually, with later societies enhancing a naturally terraced volcanic hill. Excavations have revealed evidence of human occupation, including stone walls, post holes, and artifacts consistent with Neolithic construction techniques. The upper levels seem more accessible and organized, indicating that communities may have modified an existing landscape for ceremonial, religious, or social purposes. Yet the sheer scale, weight, and precision of some stone placements raise questions about how such construction was achieved and why it occurred in this remote location. Speculative interpretations amplify the mystery. Some researchers propose that Gunung Padang is a true pyramid, deliberately built with engineering principles similar to Egyptian or Mesoamerican structures. The terraces may reflect symbolic cosmology, aligning with cardinal directions or astronomical events. Others argue that lower layers contain remnants of a civilization lost to history, suggesting that sophisticated construction predates known sedentary societies in Southeast Asia. These claims remain highly debated, as evidence from deep soil cores, ground-penetrating radar, and seismic imaging hints at stratified terraces beneath the surface, yet interpretation varies. Are these terraces the remnants of human ingenuity or natural volcanic phenomena shaped over millennia? The site's geology complicates the debate. Gunung Padang is built on a volcanic hill, with columnar basalt formations that resemble deliberate construction when stacked or fractured. Tectonic activity, erosion, and volcanic processes could produce terraces, natural steps, and angular stones that appear artificial. Yet the combination of vertical and horizontal alignment, the regularity of certain stone placements, and the presence of small cavities or post holes challenges a purely natural explanation. Could ancient builders have chosen this site because it offered a naturally terraced foundation, enhancing their construction efforts? Or did they manipulate the hill extensively, creating a monument whose origins are now obscured by geological processes? Controversy extends beyond construction methods to dating and interpretation. Radiocarbon results vary, with some early tests suggesting ages compatible with Neolithic communities, while others propose significantly older timelines. The Indonesian government's archaeological teams caution against overinterpretation, emphasizing that while Gunung Padang is certainly ancient and culturally significant, claims of a pre-10,000 BC pyramid require extraordinary evidence. Meanwhile, proponents of the ancient pyramid hypothesis argue that anomalies in soil density, magnetic readings, and stone placement indicate deliberate design and advanced prehistoric engineering. The tension between these perspectives highlights the complexity of interpreting sites where natural processes and human activity intertwine. The scale of Gunung Padang itself is remarkable. The terraces extend hundreds of meters, forming a multi-level complex that dominates the hilltop. Some stones are enormous, weighing several tons, and appear to have been cut or shaped for fit. The effort required to transport, stack, and align such stones implies a degree of organization and social coordination uncommon for societies traditionally placed in this period. Of Southeast Asian prehistory, what motivated such monumental labor? Was it ceremonial, religious, or a demonstration of political power? And how did builders achieve this level of precision without metal tools or advanced lifting technologies? Cultural context provides partial insight. Southeast Asia's prehistoric communities displayed remarkable ingenuity in stonework, agriculture, and social organization. The use of terraces for rice cultivation, ceremonial platforms, and megalithic construction is well documented in other Indonesian sites, suggesting that Gunung Padang may fit into a broader tradition of monumental landscape modification. Yet Gunung Padang's size, orientation, and potential depth challenge these conventional frameworks, raising questions about knowledge transfer, lost technologies, and societal complexity. Did these communities possess specialized knowledge that has vanished over time? Could the site represent a lost chapter in human prehistory, offering clues about societies capable of ambitious engineering far earlier than previously assumed? Speculation is further fueled by local legend. Villagers have long considered the site sacred, attributing spiritual significance to the terraces and stones. Some speak of hidden chambers beneath the surface, spaces that may hold artifacts, inscriptions, or ceremonial objects. While archaeological verification is limited, these oral traditions reflect cultural memory that preserves the perception of extraordinary antiquity. How much of the site's meaning was encoded in ritual practice, myth, or symbolic landscape design? And could local knowledge, passed down through generations, hold clues that scientific surveys alone might overlook? Gunung Padang also resonates with global curiosity about lost civilizations and the boundaries of human capability. Comparisons with the pyramids of Egypt, Mesoamerica, or the step pyramids of Mesopotamia are tempting, though the cultural and geographic contexts differ. Still, the questions remain the same. How did ancient humans organize labor, manipulate large stones, and imbue constructions with symbolic meaning? What knowledge, architectural, astronomical, or ritual, was encoded in these terraces? And how much of that knowledge has been erased by time, erosion, or cultural discontinuity? Technological studies continue to expand our understanding. Ground-penetrating radar, seismic tomography, and soil analysis reveal anomalies suggesting multiple layers beneath the visible terraces. Some researchers propose a deliberate pyramidal structure buried under volcanic soil, while others interpret these anomalies as natural stratigraphy. Radiocarbon dating and thermoluminescence testing provide additional but sometimes conflicting evidence about age and construction sequence. The interplay between human effort and natural geology remains a central puzzle. Where does the hill end and the pyramid begin? Gunung Padang, like the Ukok Princess, Taos Caves, or Ika Stones, exists at the intersection of evidence and imagination. It is a place where natural processes meet human ambition, where legends and observations intertwine, and where questions far outnumber definitive answers. The terraces and stones serve as both markers of human labor and reminders of what we do not yet know. How much history lies buried beneath layers of soil and stone, waiting for patient, careful exploration? What messages or knowledge might have been encoded in construction that predates conventional archaeology? And how do we balance skepticism, evidence, and wonder when confronted with such enigmatic sites? As mist drifts over Gunung Padang's stone terraces and the tropical forest hums with the quiet pulse of life, one can imagine the hands that moved these massive blocks, the communities that coordinated this labor, and the rituals or beliefs that inspired such monumental effort. Whether it is a pyramid, a sacred ceremonial site, or a combination of natural and human-made features, Gunung Padang challenges our understanding of human history and ingenuity. Its mysteries invite reflection, curiosity, and humility before the accomplishments and secrets of civilizations long vanished. The Gunung Padang site reminds us that the Earth is layered with evidence of human ambition, innovation, and imagination, much of it still hidden beneath soil, stone, and legend. Every stone terrace, every measured alignment, and every contested date speaks to a story of exploration, labor, and the enduring human drive to leave a mark upon the world. And as researchers continue to peel back the layers of this enigmatic hill, we are left with an open, lingering question. What truths about ancient human capability, societal organization, and lost knowledge lie buried beneath Gunung Padang, and how much will remain concealed, waiting for the intrepid and patient to uncover? From the misty terraces of Gunung Padang, where stones whisper of ancient labor, deliberate design, and contested history, we now shift our gaze northward to the windswept plains of Denmark, to a burial site that has confounded archaeologists and captured the imagination of historians for nearly a century. The Egtved girl, discovered in 1921 near the village of Egtved, presents a story of life, death, and mystery that transcends borders. Though she was interred over 3,400 years ago, during the Nordic Bronze Age, the details of her life suggest a far more complex narrative than her small grave might initially imply. The excavation revealed a remarkably well-preserved body, carefully placed in a coffin made from oak planks. Due to the acidic soil of the region, her soft tissues survived in a form of natural mummification, allowing scientists an unprecedented glimpse into Bronze Age life. She was adorned in a distinctive outfit, a short woolen skirt, a string tunic, and a bronze belt disc, complemented by leather shoes and woolen socks, meticulously arranged. Around her neck rested a corded hair ornament, and remnants of a small birch bark box indicated ritualistic intent. Her hair, braided and preserved, suggested attention to grooming and personal adornment far beyond what might be expected for a young girl of her time. Yet the most astonishing revelations came not from her garments or grave goods, but from her very body. Scientific analysis, particularly strontium isotope testing, revealed that the Egtved girl was not native to the Egtved region. The chemical signature of her teeth and bones indicated that she had spent her early years far from Denmark, most likely in what is now southern Germany. Her presence in Jutland raises questions about mobility, trade, and social networks in the Bronze Age. Was she sent as part of a marriage alliance? Did she travel as a member of a traveling elite? Or was she an emissary of some unknown social or religious role? Mainstream archaeology interprets these findings as evidence of complex social structures in Bronze Age Europe, where long-distance mobility and interregional connections were more common than previously assumed. Marriage alliances across hundreds of kilometers, accompanied by ceremonial objects and elaborate burial rites, suggest a society capable of sophisticated diplomacy, cultural exchange, and ritual practice. Yet each new insight only deepens the mystery. How did a teenage girl, likely unfamiliar with the local customs and climate, adapt to life in a distant region? And how did her foreign origins affect her social standing, role, or perception among her contemporaries? The grave itself adds further intrigue. The coffin rested in a large burial mound, partially covered by earth and stones, indicating ritual significance and protection. Organic materials surrounding her remains, including remains of grass mats and wooden planks, suggest that the interment was both practical and symbolic, designed to honor the deceased and preserve her body against decay. The level of craftsmanship and care contrasts sharply with her apparent youth, implying that her social importance was recognized in life and carefully acknowledged in death. Was her journey to Egtved part of a broader pattern of movement across Bronze Age Europe, or was she exceptional, a singular figure whose story we can only glimpse through science and imagination? Speculative interpretations of the Egtved girl's origins extend beyond geography. Some theorists suggest that her travels and burial indicate the existence of long-distance networks of trade, cultural influence, and knowledge exchange that modern scholarship has only begun to appreciate. Her clothing, made of wool dyed with complex techniques, may reflect contacts with distant regions, while the bronze belt disc suggests metallurgical skills and aesthetic sensibilities that were widespread across Europe at the time. Did she carry knowledge, customs, or beliefs from her homeland into the Danish landscape, subtly influencing local practices? Or was her presence symbolic, a physical embodiment of political or familial alliances spanning great distances? Even the details of her daily life remain enigmatic. Pollen analysis and isotopic studies suggest she consumed a varied diet of cereals, dairy, and meat, indicating access to resources and social networks that supported her sustenance. Her burial attire hints at ceremonial or ritual importance. The short skirt and tunic may have been worn for specific rites, dances, or social functions. Did these garments reflect her role in society, or were they chosen posthumously to honor her memory? And what stories might her movements, clothing, and interment tell about the social organization, gender roles, and cosmology of Bronze Age Europe? The Egtved girl's foreign origins challenge our assumptions about ancient sedentary life. In a period often characterized as isolated or locally confined, her story demonstrates remarkable mobility and interconnectedness. It raises questions about how societies maintained cultural identity while integrating outsiders, and how young women could navigate, or be directed into, roles that carried political, social, or spiritual significance. Could her journey have been voluntary, an expression of agency, or was it entirely orchestrated by family and societal expectations? And how did her community reconcile the foreign and the familiar within the fabric of everyday life and ritual practice? Some scholars speculate that the Egtved girl's burial may have had an additional layer of meaning beyond personal or familial honor. In a society attuned to the rhythms of the natural world, astronomical cycles, and seasonal rites, the placement of her grave, orientation of her coffin, and arrangement of accompanying objects could reflect cosmological symbolism. The Bronze Age communities of Northern Europe often associated burial practices with cycles of fertility, renewal, and ancestral veneration. Could her interment have been an enactment of such rituals, preserving spiritual or symbolic connections to distant lands, even as her body rested far from her birthplace? Her preserved hair, clothing, and grave goods provide rare insight into the material culture of Bronze Age Europe. Wool weaving, metalwork, and tanning were highly specialized skills, and her outfit represents both the aesthetic and practical accomplishments of her society. The careful preservation of these materials, now studied with modern analytical techniques, allows us to reconstruct aspects of her daily life, movement, and identity. And yet, despite these discoveries, the human dimensions, the choices, experiences, and emotions of the Egtved girl herself remain inaccessible, leaving only traces that provoke reflection and speculation. The story of the Egtved girl also resonates with broader themes of human migration, cultural exchange, and identity formation. She embodies the paradox of belonging and otherness, a young woman whose life traversed regions, yet whose death anchored her in the soil of a land she may have only recently known. Her preserved remains allow us to ask enduring questions about how people, societies, and ideas moved across Europe, how cultural identity was negotiated and expressed, and how physical artifacts, clothing, ornaments, and tattoos encode social and spiritual meaning. In contemplating the Egtved girl, we are reminded that history is a palimpsest, layers of movement, ritual, belief, and material culture overwritten and partially erased by time. Scientific analysis illuminates her origins, yet cannot fully reconstruct her experiences, emotions, or the societal contexts that shaped her journey. Like the Ukok princess or Gunung Padang, the Egtved girl challenges us to look beyond simple narratives, to explore the interplay between evidence, interpretation, and imagination. How much of her life remains hidden beneath the layers of soil and culture, waiting for insight, intuition, and careful study to uncover? As researchers continue to study isotopes, textiles, and burial patterns, the Egtved girl stands as both an artifact and a question. A young life frozen in time, a bridge between regions, and a symbol of the mysteries embedded in human mobility, cultural contact, and ritual practice. What truths about her society, her journey, and the networks of Bronze Age Europe will remain forever beyond our reach? And how might our own curiosity, ingenuity, and interpretation bring us closer to understanding a world that existed more than 3 millennia ago, shaped by human ambition, connection, and movement?